gotta backtrack. And you should've kept my name out your mouth. As we go, how it all turned out. When you try to use my name for clout, keep on going, think it's something you could talk about.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing on this fine Wednesday, October 8th, 2025? I'm doing quite well. I have been running all over the place today and doing errands and other things. But okay, so it's been a while since I did a full dedicated episode video, whatever you want to call it, to Tory Lanez and the Tory Lanez universe of things over there. Now, the Tory Lanez thing kind of like webs back into the web because there's some Rock Nation affiliates involved, namely Megan Thee Stallion. And she's like actually in the news right this very second for like flopping around on the stage. That's in the thumbnail. I do think that's the back of her cheeks, though. I do not think that that is what they're out here speculating. Okay, anyway, so Megan Thee Stallion has sued a, I don't know, like YouTuber, content creator, journalist, by the name of Milagro Cooper. Milagro Gramz is what she goes by on the internet or whatever. Okay, so basically this person, Milagro, was just like talking about the Tory Lanez case, talking about the criminal case and expressing her opinions, etc. Well, she got sued. Megan Thee Stallion did sue her, and not just with any lawyer, not just with any law firm, but with the same law firm that Jay-Z always uses, that Quinn Emanuel. That's where Alex Spiro works. Okay, so y'all, not everybody, but like a lot of people have been dragged into this lawsuit. Aiden Ross, a streamer, content creator. Then there was also, what's his name? DJ Academics, Livingston Allen, I think is his name on the lawsuit documents. So let me just pull up the docket for that one first. And then this is going to all be leading up into the main event, which is reading the deposition, because y'all, Tory Lanez pops off on these people. Oh my gosh. Okay, look, listen, I'm going to let y'all make your own mind up about it, but let's talk about this Aiden Ross situation first. So just because I'm going to be able to easily get that one done and out of the way, and then we can be done with that one. Okay, so this is the Megan Thee Stallion versus Milagro Cooper docket. Okay, this is all the docket entries. The most recent one filed was an order setting a pre-trial conference. That was docket 150. But like I said, we're going to do this Aiden Ross one first. So, okay. September 16th, 2025, you see docket number 144. That is notice of an attorney showing up on the behalf of Aiden Ross. And then that same day, another different attorney showing up for Aiden Ross. And then they immediately filed this motion on the same day. And it was a motion. If you've been following anything going on with that Blake Lively case, something similar has gone on in that case. This was a motion to quash. A motion to quash by Aiden Ross. His lawyers came in, they filed this thing like, quash what? Quash the subpoena for his deposition and for his other like communications and information and documents and stuff like that. So his lawyers come through and they're like, no, motion to quash, get rid of that. Our client doesn't need to turn anything over. Something's wrong with you. And the judge struck it from the record and was like, excuse me, son, in this district over here, first, before you start filing stuff about quashing and all that, you have to properly confer, or at least make some type of attempt to confer with the opposing party. Meaning, like, before this was filed in court, and again, y'all, this is all the way back in September 16th. Today is October 8th. So on September 16th, the judge is like, no, you can't file this. You have to show me proof that you tried to do a meet and confer with with Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers And then after that, if you can't resolve your dispute, then you have to go through another step, which is to request a discovery hearing. The way you do that is to contact the judge's chambers. Everyone is supposed to get copied, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so Aiden Ross's thing gets struck from the whole record, but I do want to pull up. Hold on. I do want to pull up briefly the Aiden Ross filing because he talks about that mariachi band. I might make this into its own clip later, depending on how long this live ends up being. But y'all, this is really, truly unprecedented. We need to talk about this mariachi band that they had out here trying to serve Aiden Ross. Oh my gosh, y'all. Every time I think I, stumble upon a case that has it all, I just find another one. I'm trying to remember my folder. Okay, I found it. It is kind of funny. There is some comic relief here, but if it was happening to me, I would not think it was funny. Okay, so this particular filing, again, it has been stricken from the record as, oops, that's not, girl. Okay, I have so many documents open. I should have closed some of them. I'm so confused. Okay, hold on. I think this is it. All right, cool. So, non-party Aiden Ross motion to quash or protective order. Okay. So Aiden Ross issues this motion to the court. Again, this has been stricken by the court, and this was stricken a while back. So I don't know if they have been able to reach some type of agreement. This was 19 pages long. It says on August 28th, 2025, so just about a month and, half ago or whatever, plaintiff, that's Megan the Stallion, purported to serve a subpoena on Mr. Ross, Aiden Ross, commanding both the production of documents and his personal appearance for a deposition for September 16th. Instead of knocking on the door or ringing the bell, it says Megan Pete hired a mariachi band to play music outside Aiden Ross's home to lure him and serve him. This was too clever by half, or should we say, oh Lord, pasarse de listo? Listo means finished, right? Ready? Finished? Girl, I don't know what that means. Should I Google it? Okay, let me just look it up. Now I'm curious. I did come across it when I was like reading this the first time. No, it's gotta be something. Somebody tell me what it means. Translate. Going overboard. Okay, like beyond the pale. Got it. Shout out to Neem. I was just watching your video earlier about Bucci getting into it with somebody about politics. To put one over. Got it. Got it. Okay. So this is Aiden Ross's lawyer, and they're trying to make it to where Aiden Ross is not going to have to testify in this deposition. Now, you might have remembered DJ Academics did a deposition of this sort. It was for this same lawsuit. And I believe if my memory serves me correctly, it's the same lawyers that were dealing with DJ Academics and now that are dealing with trying to serve Aiden Ross. And so this Aiden Ross is filing this with the court. Again, it's already been stricken because he didn't follow the proper procedure of like needing to try and like work it out between the lawyers before getting the court involved. But they're like, they had a mariachi band play music outside Aiden Ross's house to lure him and serve him. This was too clever by half, or should we say way overboard? Okay, it was completely beyond the pale. Furthermore, the proper service, personal service, was not made. He has security. The security team does not live at the house, and they shooed the band away. The security officer was not authorized to accept service. The mariachi band stunt trivialized the judicial process and was meant to harass and embarrass Aiden Ross. Also, the subpoena seeks extensive. Okay, so also on top of all that, Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers are seeking extensive documents and communications from Aiden Ross, including call logs, messages, payments, social media posts. All of this is issued to a person, Aiden Ross, who has nothing to do with the facts of the case. This subpoena should be quashed, or a protective order should be issued for multiple reasons, including improper service, lack of relevance, undue burden, and harassment. Okay, so that's pretty much like the Aiden Ross argument. Essentially. Okay. My computer's like doing some weird glitchy stuff. Okay, so that's that aspect of things. That was the Aiden Ross entering the chat moment, and that has yet to be resolved. The judge did strike that motion from the record, and or not from the record, but like, kind of, yeah, actually, I think just he struck it and said, you got to go follow the rules first. Okay, so that's one of those things. Okay. And then okay. So another thing you should know about this Tory Lanez, excuse me, not Tory Lanez. Now Tory Lanez is about to come up because we're going to read his depositions. That's like the grand finale of this whole thing. But I wanted to just kind of do like a case update too. I know that a lot of people on my channel had not been previously following the Tory Lanez case. So I do like to approach these videos as if, you can kind of jump in anytime. I try to make them the most approachable that way. But for a lot of y'all that have been following it from, day by day, point by point since the beginning, salute to y'all, shout out to y'all. But I understand if it's, kind of sometimes feels a little bit elementary or slower over here, but that's just how we're gonna do. Something else you should know about the Tory Lanez case, the criminal one. He was found to be guilty, but he made some arguments on appeal that I think are very strong. Arguments based on specifically Brady violations. Maryland versus Brady, where the prosecution had evidence in their possession or knowledge of evidence that they didn't necessarily, I believe, in a timely way turn over, which is a constitutional violation, which may result in, depending on the circumstances, prosecutorial misconduct, which would mean not only a mistrial, but like a double jeopardy mistrial, like kind of like that Alec Baldwin Rust trial situation where it was like all of it, boom, you can never be double jeopardy. You can't be tried again for it and anything like that because of the Brady violation. So that being said, that argument, excuse me, that case has been argued for appeal back in August. And something that I learned throughout this is something I guess you could have been learned by anybody. But while I was doing my research today for this video, just to do a roundup or whatever, like a roundup video for where we stand right now. The latest date by which the appeals court has to decide on the Tory Lanez appeal is November 17th. The appeals court, I repeat, the appeals court has until no later than November 17th, 2025 to return their decision. Okay, so I didn't know exactly what the date was. I was just kind of like guessing and ballparking, but I think that's that 90-day thing, and we may come across that date in the things that we read today and the things I bring up on the screen today, which would all be public records. Everything I'm reading from is all public records. Anybody can get them from Pacer with a Pacer account. It's public records. So this is none of this insider information, anything like that. And, as usual, everybody is innocent until proven or unless proven guilty and all that. All right. This is not legal advice and all that. Okay. All right. So we're looking at the docket. And as you can see here, the judge is like, y'all didn't comply with the rules or whatever. So y'all go work that out yourself. Then there's an order from September 29th, docket 149, providing instructions for jury trial. So this case is not the Tory Lanez case. This case, again, is a Rock Nation affiliated artist, Megan Pete, whose stage name is Megan Thee Stallion. And she's suing this content creator, journalist, YouTuber named Milagro, right? So that's what all this is for. But separate and apart from this, in addition to this, there's also a whole nother case going on, and that's Tory Lanez's criminal case, which is right now on appeal. So Aiden Ross has got dragged into here. As I mentioned earlier, DJ Academics has also been now dragged up into here, and he publicized some of his deposition. Now, you may also know that Megan Thee Stallion's team was none too pleased with DJ Academics' antics. They actually are in the process, from what I understand right now, of trying to have to drag him back to do more deposing because they said he was evading questions or something. They may have given up on that, but they were saying that he was being evasive and he didn't answer all the questions. Or something of the sort. Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers were not pleased, okay, with the whole way that DJ Academics' deposition went. Now, also, something important to just keep in mind, because if you've watched my other videos, then you're aware of this whole webbing situation already, where everything leads back into everything and everyone's connected to everyone by 0 degrees of separation. But when you're looking at these, oh man, hold on. I totally got distracted. I'm reading y'all's comments. I'm looking at these numbers. Hey, y'all, I don't even exactly remember what I was saying. So I'll just keep moving on here. But, oh, the Desiree Perez thing. Desiree Perez, right. So fate would have it, just as I was starting to get into the Megan, the Stallion, Tory Lanez, and all this aspect of part of the web over here, Nicki Minaj was tweeting. She was tweeting. And right around that same time was when Demore Hadley and Javon Hadley were also kind of starting to make waves. There was that lawsuit that was being filed against Desiree Perez, who is the, from what I understand, the CEO or some type of operating officer at Rock Nation. Now, just so happened at the time of the recording of this video, or the live of this video I'm doing right now, Rock Nation, Desiree is being called some promoter. She's done picked Bad Bunny to be the Super Bowl halftime, whatever. And Donald Trump's now calling her a promoter. It's like, hold on, stop, wait. Donald Trump just pardoned that exact person, Desiree Perez. Was she just some promoter at that point? Anyway, let me stop. Let me stop. Because I'm getting too ahead of myself. But you know how it just all webs back into each other. I could do this I could go on and on and on and on. This is generative. Okay. So anyway, DJ Academics, we have him over there. We have this same law firm kind of like stretching across the way. We have Milagro and Tory sharing the same legal counsel at different times. You have Sean Chapman Holly in the mix. And it's just very bizarre. Okay, so in this case, with Milagro getting sued by Megan Thee Stallion, the civil case, it's a defamation case. Megan Thee Stallion is suing Milagro for basically saying Megan Thee Stallion's a liar or whatever. And Milagro said she had good reason to call Megan Thee Stallion the liar because Megan Thee Stallion went out there on the news or whatever and said that she lied, or on her Instagram, and said that she had lied on the news or whatever. So Milagro is like, I should be able to say she lied if she said she lied. And you know what? I agree with that, but I'm not the judge. So I'm just sitting over here covering the case. What I will say is it does appear to me as though she changed her story remarkably, like a few times and on different things. So when I found out about all this was kind of going on at the same time, right? Like the stuff about Desiree Perez was kind of coming out, like the lawsuit being brought against her. Jay-Z's reputation took a little bit of a hit last year or earlier this year whenever he was being sued alongside Diddy, but it does appear as though he, with the help of Alex Spiro at the same law firm, Quinn Emanuel, was able to kind of, I think, recovered from that one. I think, he's not going down over that lawsuit, but I mean, it was kind of like, that Mufasa premiere was something else, Well, not only has Megan Thee Stallion tried to drag, not only has Megan Thee Stallion tried to drag DJ Academics and Aiden Ross into this lawsuit, but also Tory Lanez she's trying to drag into this lawsuit and has successfully dragged into the lawsuit. Now, in the lawsuit for defamation that Megan filed against Milagro, Megan says that there is a scheme. There's a scheme going on by which Tory Lanez is paying somebody to pay Milagro to be his mouthpiece. But Milagro, and I read through a lot of her deposition, has said that she's really pretty much never spoken to Tory Lanez directly. And when she was talking to any of the people in the family, it was to Tory Lanez's dad, and they weren't really talking about that lawsuit. So their stories contradict each other's. Well, Megan Thee Stallion is saying that in order for her to get to the bottom of the case of whether or not she was defamed, she needs to be able, through her lawyers, to depose Tory Lanez. And Tory Lanez, again, has a whole pending criminal case going on. He's like, look, I have a Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate myself. I have a criminal appeal going on. There's no reason that I should be being dragged into this lawsuit. But Megan Thee Stallion's like, yes, you should be, because you were the one paying her to spout out stuff for you. So that's what they're kind of going back and forth about. Now, this is the main docket, okay? But here now has started another docket. Another docket has started, and this one has just to do with the names of Tory Lanez, which is Daystar Peterson, and Megan Pete. So basically now what has happened is Tory Lanez has been brought into a deposition twice. Now, in general, he has switched lawyers a few times, and we are going to get into and discuss as we're reading through exactly some of the drama, some of the, I don't know, odd, weird, interesting, whatever you want to call it, things that have happened in this case. But essentially, just to give you the very broad 30,000 foot view of the situation, Tory Lanez has now been brought in twice to be deposed, and he doesn't want to be deposed. He actually now wants the judge to issue an order saying that until he is done with his criminal appeal, that there is going to be no deposition. Now, here's where it gets fun and interesting for timeline purposes, is that, as I mentioned earlier, the appeals court has until November 17th to issue their appeal ruling. Now, they might say this case is remanded back down to lower court for a new trial. They might say we have to uphold the lower court. They might say mistrial and no new trial. Who knows what they're going to say? But until then, Tory Lanez and his lawyer, Crystal Morgan, are arguing that they should not have to go for anything that could be held against him in court and all of that. Well, guess what? The trial for this for Megan Pete versus Milagro is set to begin on like November 16th. Hold on, let me see. I got the dates right here. November 16th. If I was saying 17th earlier, excuse me. November 16th is the deadline for the Tory Lanez appeal decision. But guess when Meg versus Milagro trial starts? And this is the time by which they would have needed to depose Tory Lanez because they want to depose him. Megan Thee Stallion still wants her team to depose him. Well, he doesn't want to be deposed. His lawyer doesn't want him deposed. He's saying no. There should be a protective order. There should be an injunction. The court should intervene because I have rights as a federal criminal defendant. And he does. He's right. He does have those rights. So he has now asked the court for a protective order and an injunction. He wants the judge to say, no, Megan Thee Stallion and company. No, you may not depose him until there is some resolution on his appeal. After that, then maybe we can, talk about it or whatever. Well, that I wanted to bring up to y'all as well. So there is a pre-trial conference in the main case on October 30th, and there is a preliminary hearing on the side case now, which is like Tory Lanez versus Megan Thee Stallion, for October 20th. But that is not fast enough for Megan Thee Stallion's team for the reasons I just told y'all. There is a time crunch. Like if everything is just allowed to play out how it's going to play out, then the trial is going to start the day after they could have possibly even lifted he's basically not, there's going to be no Tory Lanez testimony. So Megan Thee Stallion's team's like, well, we need to speed this other process along. We need to get the other judge going faster, so there's competing interests. You could see on one side, Tory Lanez' side, he doesn't want to have to do this deposition until after his appeal decision is submitted or the window is closed. But if he gets his way on that, then basically Megan Thee Stallion's not going to get a chance to depose him again if everything else stays the same. So their interests are competing. Now remember, they've already sat Tory Lanez down 2 times to try to depose him. And when I tell y'all, it was a fiasco. It was a clown show. It was dramatic. There was so much stuff going on. Hold on. I want to pull up. Again, I have 700 freaking things open here. Ugh, I closed it. Shoot. Oh, yeah, it was this. Okay. Shoot. Okay. My documents have been glitching. I do all these edits and things and all that. And then all the words on the document will just go away. And then only thing left is my highlighting and my boxes. And it makes me almost have a stroke or something every time. It's been happening today. Okay. Okay. Let's look at Megan Thee Stallion's motion for an order to show cause. Okay, that's the document we're going to start out by looking at. And I want to read this little snippet kind of out of context for y'all, I think it sheds some light on where Tory Lanez might be coming from, because I'll let y'all know, I've already read through all of this. I already read it. This isn't a reaction. I'm just discussing. I'm kind of reacting. Maybe there's some stuff I missed. I'll react to if I see, but I've already read through this, and I'm going to tell y'all, as you start going through here, it's going to seem like Tory Lanez is being kind of petulant and, unprofessional or rude. He certainly is acting in ways I personally wouldn't, even if I was in his position. But that being said, I've never been in his position. So I'm really trying to give the benefit of the doubt to him, because I do see his arguments are very strong on his appeal and stuff. And I think, there's some places in here where he kind of gives a little bit of insight into where he's coming from. And maybe that will shade your perspective one way or another. But this is just like a random page. And this is him. This where it says the witness. This is part of one of his depositions. And he says, I want this to be known on record that I don't trust this woman. Okay, so he's talking about the person who's deposing him, Megan's lawyer, Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer. Now, remember, y'all, again, he is serving time in a federal penitentiary or whatever, a federal correctional institution or whatever, because of crimes supposed and convicted toward Megan Thee Stallion, right? But in this case, for which he is being deposed and for which we are from which we're reading this deposition, he's not mentioned as a party. He's not getting sued as a co-defendant. This is a defamation lawsuit against a YouTuber. And Megan Thee Stallion is trying to pull Tory in because, to some extent, I'm sure, there are some legitimate questions she might possibly could have, but, it would be difficult to imagine that she's not also just trying to get more intel, more information from him. Again, he does have a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. She's not even suing him. He's a non-party. So he says, I want this to be known on record that I don't trust this woman. I know that the fact that these people are the same people who have me in prison wrongfully convicted of a crime that I did not commit, that no physical evidence even says that I have committed this crime, so I don't trust this woman. He goes on, so when I am asking for a clarification on things, he keeps asking questions that do seem kind of dumb. Like, it's kind of like, what? Come on. He's asking questions like, can you define discuss? Can you define what you mean by the word meet? And it's like, it can seem like maybe he's trying to stall. But then again, hold on. But then again, I have seen Jay-Z's lawyers. I have seen the Quinn Emanuel team really mince words. So whenever they're asking Tory, for example, did you meet with your lawyer about this case? What do you mean meet with about? What do you mean? Like where, when? This is where he's coming from, according to him. He's saying when I'm asking for clarification on things, it's not because I'm just trying to be difficult or extra of any sort. I just have to fine comb everything. Because the people that this woman works for are despicable. He said this in his deposition. And they do things at the expense of someone else's freedom for their own personal gain. So I don't trust this woman. So if it seems like I'm coming off in any kind of way, he's like, I'm actually trying to be as respectful as I can. I just want... I just want all the clarity. And if that comes off to anybody like I'm doing something that's undermining or some sort of way like that, I do apologize. But I just want my clarity. So, Ms. Henderson, that's the lawyer, I'm just letting you know that's where the basis of my questions come from when I'm asking you to clarify things. So then she goes into her next question. Okay, so we'll get to that. But going into his deposition, I did just want to maybe show y'all that part up front and get a little context of like maybe, considering that that's where he says he's coming from, whether or not you care or want to take that into consideration is totally up to you. But I wanted to show that to y'all. So let's start at the beginning of that document where that actually came from. I'm trying to resize this. It's like glitching still. Okay. So this is actually a document filed by Megan Thee Stallion or her lawyers. And it's an unopposed motion for an order. So she wants an order from the judge Order to show cause from the judge, and wants Tory Lanez to explain himself why he shouldn't be held in contempt of court for violating the court's previous order. Okay, so previously, Tory Lanez had been ordered by the court to do a deposition. When that happened, there was some confusion about whether or not he had a lawyer, what the lawyer that he did have was actually supposed to be representing him on, etc., etc. So, first deposition ends up being over, and then Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers ask for another deposition. So Tory Lanez is dragged over there again. Now, by this time, he has another lawyer, Crystal Morgan, who is now still his lawyer today. So he's already sat again for 2 depositions. The first one he sat for, it's a little bit up in the air whether he was actually officially like represented by counsel. That is going to come down to mincing of words. The second one, he was represented by counsel. That was Crystal Morgan. And Crystal Morgan is also his appeal attorney. She was the one that did the press conference after the oral arguments of the appeal. So let me pull up that document. I did have it up. Okay, here it is. So this is Megan Thee Stallion now asking the judge. This was filed at the end of last month, maybe like 2 weeks ago, September 25th. Plaintiff Megan Pete, by and through the undersigned counsel, file for a motion, file this motion for an order to show cause as to why Tory Lanez shouldn't be held in contempt for violating the court's order permitting his deposition. Tory Lanez's conduct during the deposition was so disruptive, inflammatory, and inconsistent with the basic norms of civil litigation that even his own counsel, who also represents the defendant in the case, Milagro Cooper, disavowed it. Now, I don't want to get off in the weeds, but just put a pin in this right here, this his own counsel thing, because we're going to get into that, okay? It's up for debate whether that really is his counsel. We'll talk about it in a minute, a little while. But Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers go on. As a result of Tory Lanez's misconduct in the deposition had to be terminated shortly after it began. Although his conduct was shocking, it's not a complete surprise. From behind prison bars, Tory Lanez telegraphed his intent to defy the court's deposition process, boasting in a press release issued by Unite the People that he would refuse to testify. They have a press release from Unite the People. Now, Unite the People is a nonprofit organization that collects donations and funds to, I'm not exactly sure what exactly. At first, I thought it was like a nonprofit that gave people free lawyers, like indigent clients. But the more I'm learning about Unite the People, the more I'm unsure exactly what this organization is. But they are, or they were, in some way involved in both the criminal case with the Tory Lanez. They were involved with that. And they also have been involved with the Megan Pete versus Milagro case. Both times, Unite the People was associated in some way with helping out on the defense side. One was a criminal case, one was a civil. However, from what I understand, Unite the People is no longer working with Tory Lanez is no longer working with Unite the People, if he ever was, and Milagro is no longer working with Unite the People, if she ever was. Now, I did read some of Milagro's transcript from her deposition as well, and it seemed as though there was some seedy, unexplained kind of activities going on with these Unite the People thing. However, I'm not going to get into it because I frankly just don't remember that much about it. It's like a vague outline of a memory. Okay, so right around this time, though, in April this year, there was a press release put out. Now, April earlier this year was the same exact time as Tory Lanez did his first deposition in this case. He did that April earlier this year, 2025. So right around that same time, there was a right around the same time, this Unite the People organization, who I think Tory Lanez was working with it to some extent at that time, they release a press release and it says, Tory Lanez is not going to be testifying for anybody. He's not getting deposed. According to Meg Thee Stallion's filing just before the deposition, Unite the People's CEO, Caesar McDowell, mocked the process of depositions on his social media account, writing, "Good luck trying to get Mr. Peterson to testify to anything." That's Tory Lanez. It's just not what he does. That proved prescient. Tory Lanez flouted this court's order authorizing his deposition and refused to testify to anything. This court should issue an order to show cause as to why Tory Lanez shouldn't be held in contempt for violating the court's first order permitting his deposition, squandering the time of his own counsel, squandering his own lawyer's time, wasting his own lawyer's time, misusing the resources of the California prison staff, and otherwise abusing the judicial process. So they want him to be held in contempt of court. Once the court issues the order to show cause and affords Mr. Peterson an opportunity to respond, the court should then order him to return to the deposition and conduct himself as if he were appearing in court. He should also be forced to bear the costs of the initial and follow-up depositions. And finally, the court should warn him that if he fails to do all of this stuff, he will be punished with further confinement when he completes his sentence. Okay, so y'all, look, listen, I don't know if y'all caught this or not. Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers are trying to and have now successfully gotten Tory Lanez threatened with possible additional prison time, incarcerated time, because of not wanting to answer questions at this deposition in a case that he's not even a party in. Look, finally, the court should warn him that if he fails to do all this stuff, go to the deposition again, bear the costs, pay all this stuff for everybody's lawyers, he will be punished with further confinement when he completes his current sentence. So not even can he serve it during the 10 years, but he has to tack it on the end. Consecutive. So then they get into the background. This case is about the extensive and, quote, persistent defamation by Milagro Cooper of plaintiff Megan Pete. Ms. Cooper is a social media personality. Starting in 2020 and continuing to the present, she has used her social media accounts to spread, quote, defamatory statements, deepfake corn videos, and outright lies about Miss Pete at the behest and command of Tory Lanez. So this is the allegation that since 2020, Milagro has been doing all of this stuff, just spreading lies and corn and everything else about deep fakes about Megan Thee Stallion at the behest of Tory Lanez. As the court knows from its review of the legal sufficiency of the amended complaint, in 2022, Mr. Peterson pew and wounded Megan Pete. He was charged, tried, convicted for his crime. He is now serving a 10-year prison sentence in California, in a state prison. Since the incident and through the present, Milagro Cooper has worked on a, quote, coordinated campaign with Tory Lanez to defame, delegitimize Megan Thee Stallion. Milagro has acted at Tory Lanez's direction, helping him circumvent multiple protective and gag orders. Megan Thee Stallion filed this case to set the record straight on Miss Cooper's lies and hold her accountable, blah, blah, blah. We already did a deposition and it proved to be a waste of time. Tory Lanez refused to treat his deposition with any seriousness. And then they say, you know, his deposition is attached as Exhibit C. We will get into that. In the 44 minutes on the record, Tory Lanez feigned ignorance. That means he pretended to be stupid regarding the definition of basic words like discuss, approve. He also harassed Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer about her appearance. Oh, did she? Did he? I mean, Allegedly, he interrupted questioning to discuss his answers with his and Megan Thee Stallion's counsel and pretended that the video equipment was not working, despite the prison staff confirming it was functioning properly. As a result of Mr. Peterson's contemptuous behavior, so he's like, being in contempt, Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer suspended the deposition so that she could bring his misconduct to the court's attention for redress. Now, I want you to remember their reasoning here. He feigned ignorance to certain words: discuss, approve. He harassed this lady on the behalf of her, on the count of her appearance. He interrupted questioning to have side conversations. He pretended the video equipment wasn't functioning. Okay, so these are the reasons. As a result of that behavior, Miss Pete's counsel, Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer, suspended the deposition so that she could bring his misconduct to the court's attention. Now, interestingly, you're going to see that they did call the court in the middle of the deposition, at least on one deposition. On this deposition, they called the court in the middle. So they didn't bring this behavior up then. They called the court beforehand. There were some arguments. Again, these are two different depositions. I may be misremembering exactly which one. Like, again, one happened in April and a second one happened in September. In April, he was kind of represented by counsel. We'll get into that in a minute, or in a little while. Okay, anyway, I'm already it's already taking so long, so I don't really want to get sidetracked with comments right now, but I do see some interesting ones. Okay. So this is the so-called alleged misconduct. Mr. Peterson feigned ignorance of the meaning of everyday words such as discuss, approve, and meet. When asked if Mr. Peterson had ever met with any attorneys to prepare for the deposition, he pretended not to know what the word meet meant in context, and offered a monologue about how meat could have a variety of definitions, including in the SUL context. Miss Henderson, this is Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer, asking Tory Lanez a question. Okay, did you meet with Mr. Hayden? That's the lawyer from Unite the People. Did you meet with the Unite the People lawyer or any other attorneys to prepare for your deposition today? He said, when you meet, what do you mean? When you say meet, what do you mean? So what does the word meet mean to you? He said, well, I would ask you, I guess, for maybe the Webster dictionary, if you could explain that to me just for clarification. And then they go back and forth. Now, this is also cited in the main deposition, so I'm not going to get into reading all that right now, but I just want to pull this other document up real quick to briefly remind you of a document we previously looked at, because again, on first glance, it would appear like he's being, again, petulant, difficult, dramatic, etc., etc. However, again, I want to draw your attention to Aiden Ross's motion to quash the subpoena, because at the end of it, he does put the subpoena and the attachments. Look at this section, page 11 of 19, called definitions. This is just to show y'all an example of how these lawyers do have very specific definitions for words that me and you might not consider to be the definition, right? This is very basic words we're going to go through. Call log refers to records of phone calls made or received. This includes caller and receiver details, date and time of calls, duration of calls, type of calls, outgoing, incoming, or missed. Okay, that one sounds fine. I would say that's what I thought the definition was. Civil action is the litigation called Megan versus Milagro Cooper. Communication. Okay, so think about this. You get a subpoena and they say, turn over all communications between you and party X. what do you mean? What does that mean? Exactly. Exactly. What does that mean? Exactly. Well, they give you a definition right here. Look. Used in its broadest ordinary sense and shall mean any oral or written statement, dialogue, discussion, exchange, conversation, disclosure, or transmittal of information, whether in person, by telephone, or in any form of video transmission. Okay, wait. So a communication could be a live stream where you shouted somebody out. Mail, email, facsimile. Okay, so wait, mail communication. So could that be just like a flyer email, your automatic email you're signed up for? Because remember, this was being sent to Aiden Ross. So what if you had signed up for some, I don't know, communication or whatever? Excuse me, as some email list. That would count as a communication, even as an auto listserv or whatever. Fax, personal delivery, computer transmission, or otherwise. For the avoidance of doubt, the term communication shall encompass emails, pictures, photographs, recordings, text messages, messages exchanged on any communicative or social media app, including WhatsApp, iMessage, Slack, Facebook Messenger, Google Messages, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Cisco WebEx, Signal, Line, WeChat, Wicker, Snapchat, Telegram. Oh, didn't put Kik in here and it's Aiden Ross? Rookie mistake. Face-to-face meetings, telephone conversations, or any other means of capturing information. They go on. Documents has the broadest meaning. Information recorded in any medium electronically. Okay, so you get the point, right? Actually, if you're going to define documents in that complicated of a way, then I could actually maybe see somewhat of where Tory Lanez is coming from. What do you mean meat? What exactly are you going to put as, the definition? Okay, so they say that Tory Lanez harassed Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer about her appearance. Petty misogynistic jabs. He said, "Did you review the documents on the color of the dye you were going to use for your hair?" Oh, we'll get to that. "Change your hair next time," he said. "Just at least comb it. My God, can you at least comb your hair?" He interrupted and stalled the deposition, they said. "I got all day. I got 10 years in here." "We got all day," he said. So these are just the complaints that Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers are making against Tory Lanez. It says he should be ordered to appear for another deposition. He should be warned that he could go to jail, more jail time, and all that. So, Exhibit A, let's go to C. Okay. So, let's start here. This is the first deposition. Okay. So, 53 minutes, 23 seconds. We're going to start the first deposition. This was from April 9th, 2025, earlier this year. Now, one thing very important that I found is look at this appearances sheet. This is the lawyers and who they're appearing on the behalf of. This, if you have a lawyer and they're appearing on your behalf, this is where it would be. For the plaintiff, that's Megan Thee Stallion, we have Quinn Emanuel. We have Mary Henderson. That's the one that Tory Lanez is talking about her hair. And then we have this other one, Julian Shern. Okay. Also, Bommy Lee. For the defendants, there's just the one defendant. It's Milagro Cooper. And I guess if she has any company that they're suing or whatever. But again, just because Tory Lanez was a defendant in a criminal case somewhere else doesn't mean he's a defendant here. And in fact, indeed, he's not. It even specifies for the defendants, Unite the People Incorporated. This is for Milagro Elizabeth Cooper, not for Daystar Shumuel Peterson. Okay, that's not what it says. It says, who's here? For the defendants, Unite the People, for Milagro. That's Michael Hayden. Now, Michael Hayden is Tory's lawyer for his criminal case at this time, which was April. Today, October 8th, his lawyer is not Michael Hayden. And actually, and in fact, and indeed, on this day, His lawyer was not Michael Hayden for this matter. This is a civil matter between two people, and Tory Lanez isn't one of them. Imagine you go to imagine you go to a law firm and they're taking you pro bono. Maybe you have some type of landlord dispute and they take you on pro bono and they're helping you negotiate some, getting your deposit back or something. I don't know, but they're doing it pro bono because this landlord is a slumlord and they're trying to build a bigger case or something. They're just like, I'll take you pro bono. Does that mean you're entitled to go to that lawyer with any and every case? If you get sued for defamation, does that lawyer have to represent you now? No. You have to sign a new engagement letter with the lawyer. So from what I understand, there was no engagement letter ever signed with this lawyer and between him and Tory for this lawsuit. It was only for the criminal case. But he was here sitting with Tory because, again, he was his criminal case lawyer working through Unite the People. And he didn't want Tory to say something that could incriminate him in his criminal case. So he was there to be like, no, Fifth Amendment, no, you're not going to ask about anything from his criminal case, stuff like that. But as far as representing him as his private lawyer in a civil case, he's not even named as a party in this case. He did not enter into an engagement agreement, apparently, with his lawyer for this case. It was only for the criminal one. So also this other guy, Pancier Law, for the defendant, Milagro Elizabeth Cooper. Again, not Tory Lanez. Also present. Anybody here for Tory Lanez? No. It says Gabby Trevino from Quinn Emanuel and Aiden Jin, who's a videographer. Good morning. Okay. So they start reading off who they are. It's the beginning of the deposition. Would counsel please identify yourselves and state who you represent? Miss Henderson. Okay, that's Mary Henderson, the one with the hair. Harry Henderson. We'll call her Harry Henderson since Tory Lanez about to tell her to brush her hair and she got the wrong blonde. I mean, he goes off. He's like, check the roots. Where's Stino? We're my cousin. Harry Henderson on behalf of plaintiff Megan Pete, and joining her in the room is the colleague Julian Shern. Okay, important. Put a pin in this. Who's in the room? They're doing it on Zoom, right? So she's got to say who she's in the room with. Mary Henderson. Hi, I'm Mary. And somebody else in the room with me. Julian Shern. Then another person speaks. Mr. Pancier. Michael Pancier for the defendant. Who is the defendant? Pop quiz. Milagro Elizabeth Cooper. Who is not the defendant? Tory Lanez, aka Daystar Shemuel Peterson. Okay, that is not the defendant. So Pancier is not here for him. Mr. Hayden, counsel for defendant. So I'm the lawyer for Milagro. And I am appellant counsel for the witness. Appellant counsel. I'm the appeals lawyer for Tory. I'm his appeals lawyer. That does not mean I'm here to talk about or to represent him in this civil matter. Now, this will end up and eventually, including to this very day, be used against Tory. But the lawyer is pretty clear, I think. I'm the counsel. I'm the legal representation for Milagro, and I'm the appeals criminal counsel for witness Tory Lanez, Daystar Peterson. Thank you. But he doesn't say I'm counsel for defendant and the witness. He's not here for that. He's here for the defendant. Why? Because Milagro is the one getting sued. Her lawyer is already going to be there anyway. So who's really here to represent Tory in the civil case? No one. Himself. It's just himself. His lawyer is not representing him in this case. He even says it right here. Counsel for Milagro, and I am the appeals counsel for Tory Lanez. Okay. So then the court reporter's name is Ronnie. You're going to want to remember that because she plays a starring role. So Tory Lanez declares under penalty of perjury that he's going to testify truthfully. All right, good morning. And this is all being done by, what's her name? Mary Henderson. Let me show y'all a picture of her so you know what she looks like. Okay, this is a photo from Instagram. I do know that at least Reed Smith will copyright claim these pictures, but this is a publicly available image that's publicly searchable and is used as a biopic for advertisement purposes. So hopefully that much of our free speech still remains intact. This is her right here, Mary Henderson Esquire. Note the blonde. That color is going to become important momentarily. Okay. Okay, good morning, she says. Tory says, good morning. As I stated already, my name. Could I get you to state your full name? Do you go by Tory Lanez? Yes. I'm in prison right now. She's like, before we go into the record, we discussed that there's a background behind you, but obviously that's a virtual background and that is not actually the room within which you are taking this deposition. Is that right? He said, well, I'm taking this deposition in this room. The background doesn't change the room. She's like, right, but would you agree that there's a virtual background behind you? And he's like, I guess I could agree to that. I don't know what it really is. It was placed here before I got here. Okay, how long have you been in the prison? He said, I think about a year and some change, maybe a year and 6 months, something like that. She says, okay, so before we get started with some questions, I'm going to take you through some admonitions. Do you understand? The admonitions like given the rules, like going to lay out like what is expected of Tory Lanez and what he can expect. Do you understand that you are giving testimony today under oath, under penalty of perjury? He said, I do. Do you understand that do you understand that you are under the same oath today as if you were testifying in court? He said, yes, I understand. Okay, so I'm going to be asking you questions, and sometimes your counsel, who is Mr. Hayden, he might object. Okay, so see how she's already trying to say your counsel might object. But again, counsel for what? Counsel for the criminal case, what he said. I am appellate counsel. And he's no longer appellate counsel. He did not argue the appellate case. The person who did the oral arguments was Crystal Morgan. But this is back from April earlier this year when he was still working with them Unite the people. But look, the lawyer's like, oh no, you got counsel. Your counsel, Mr. Hayden, might object, but unless he advises you not to answer, you still need to answer my questions. Do you understand that? He said, no, I don't understand that. She said, okay, so you have counsel here with you today for this deposition. Is that correct? He said, I believe so. To see, even still here, he's like, I don't really know, I guess. Who is your counsel for the deposition today? He's like, I guess of all the 4 faces I'm looking at, I would imagine it must be Michael Hayden. Okay. So if Michael Hayden instructs you not to answer a question, then you will not be answering. However, there are other objections that he or other counsel may make. And unless you are specifically advised not to answer a question, you understand that you still need to answer my question? He said, no, I don't understand why I have to answer your question. Why are you saying that? Okay, here's his so-called lawyer, which again, it's up for dispute whether it really is his lawyer. But he says, maybe I could help. She's just making a record. He says, this is strictly for the record, Mr. Peterson. I will be objecting and instructing you not to answer about anything that's Fifth Amendment privileged, if that makes sense. So only Fifth Amendment because he's the criminal appellate lawyer. So that is all adding up to me. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't want to violate the Fifth Amendment, right? Okay, so then Megan's lawyer continues. She says, but there's other objections he may have, like speculation or assumes facts not in evidence, just as examples. If he makes those objections, then you still need to answer my question. But the lawyer specifically did not say that. He only said Fifth Amendment because he's been very clear. He's not Tory's lawyer for the civil case. Tory's not paying him for that. They didn't enter into an agreement for that. There's no contract for that. He's just in here to be like, don't incriminate yourself in the criminal trial. Tory said, I don't see why I would answer any question after my lawyer objected to it. I do not understand that. His lawyer said, no, Tory. If it's Fifth Amendment privilege, then I will instruct you not to answer because it could self-incriminate you. But if it's just a general question like, is the sky blue? You can answer that. Even if I object to it, you would still answer that. Does that make sense? It's just nothing to incriminate you. He said, I understand what you're saying, but I do not understand why I would have to answer something that you objected to. The lawyer said, I got you. An objection is stated just for the record. That's your lawyer or, someone else's lawyer, whatever, putting their 2 cents in. Tory said, so I can, oh, this is funny. He said, I can just tell Mary is going to hate me this whole interview. He's talking about Megan's lawyer. I can just see her face like, oh, this guy is just going to be difficult. The lawyer's like, okay, you're good. We'll get it done. He says, all right, come on, let's go, guys. Okay, so Tory's ready. The lawyer says, okay, so moving on from the questions piece of it, we do have a court reporter taking all of this down. And so the result of that will be a written transcript of the deposition. And so because of that, it's important that you give audible, verbal answers to my questions to keep things. Tory interrupts her. He said, can I ask you a question? Miss Henderson? That's the last name? Yep. Is it okay if I call you Miss Henderson? Yeah. Okay. All right. Miss Henderson. Are you planning on publicizing any of this? I would just like for you to say it on record. She says, okay, first, I'm going to set some ground rules before I answer your question so you understand how this works. One, I was in the middle of telling you that a court reporter is taking all of this down and there will be a written record. So because of that, first, I need to give verbal, audible answers such as a yes or no rather than nodding your head. And second, and most importantly, the Quinn Emanuel lawyer said, as exhibited now, you cannot interrupt my questions so the reporter can get a clear record. So I would ask you to wait for me to finish my question before you answer. And I will do the same and I will give you the same courtesy. Also, as your attorney will advise you, I am the one asking questions today. However, I will provide you with the admonition that this deposition is subject to a protective order. So she's saying, I'm not answering your questions. I'm the one asking the questions, buddy. But I will tell you there's a protective order here. So I'm not allowed to share this or publicize this deposition. He says, one more thing. Do I have my First Amendment right, freedom of speech? His lawyer said, you do have your First Amendment right, but you also, Tory Lanez interrupts. He says, then why am I not allowed to ask her a question? And this is like pretty standard, y'all. Like you're not allowed to ask a question in a deposition. It's really not the point. The point of a deposition is just an interview to get information related to the case. Now it will eventually be argued by Tory Lanez's new lawyer who's representing him now that he doesn't have any relevant evidence. And if to the extent that it is relevant, it's duplicitous or whatever, and implicates his constitutional rights against self-incrimination and other constitutional rights as an incarcerated person. However, today he's sitting here, this was again, April 2025, earlier this year. He said, she's explaining this stuff to me as if I'm not allowed to ask a question or say anything. So I just want to know. And then his lawyer at the time is like, well, right now you are a witness and you're being questioned in this civil case. He said, it's my job to object if there's anything that's going to incriminate you, and that's what I'm going to do. Again, y'all, he is very specifically saying, I am just here to keep you from criminally incriminating yourself. He said, the lawyers on that side are entitled to ask whatever. Tory Lanez said, I understand that, Michael Hayden. I guess, and he refers, I don't think he really fully even trusts this guy. Because the way he talks to him and like about him or whatever, he's like Michael, like of the people in this room, I guess it would be Michael is my lawyer. Like you kind of get the impression he doesn't really trust him. At least I get that impression, and perhaps my impression is mistaken. But he's like, I understand that, Michael Hayden. I guess what my question is like, does that prohibit me from being able to ask a question? You can ask a question, yeah, but the lawyer does not have to answer it. And if you don't respond to her questions, you could be held in contempt. I don't make the rules. I'm just telling y'all how it works. You can take out your frustrations on someone who's not the messenger. But in general, in depositions, the person being asked questions is not there. I guess they are allowed to ask a question back. But the person who's conducting the deposition, in this case, Mary Henderson, would not have to answer those questions. So technically, sure, he could ask a question. But at the point that it starts to impede on the deposition, because again, remember y'all, these depositions are not unlimited time. They'll either be, 4 hours, 3 hours, 8 hours, 7 hours, whatever the case may be, and that's that. They're just not just unlimited. And so for that reason, you also as a person being deposed have an obligation to some extent to act in good faith. So these are the things that have to just be balanced on both sides over and over. I'm not saying that one tips one way or the other. I'm just saying these are all the things that one should consider when, participating in the in the antics. Okay, so he's like, so the lawyer's like, we could take breaks and you can ask me questions if you have administrative questions. But in the line of questioning, we have to let the lawyer, and then Tory Lanez cuts him off again. He's like, okay, well, given that we let her ask all the questions she wants to ask, she can ask questions until her face turns blue. But I'm asking if I'm allowed to ask her a question. His lawyer said, no, you cannot ask her questions. He said, does anything that she is saying prohibit me from asking a question? His lawyer said, you can't respond to a question with a question. I can object and I can instruct you not to answer. But anything she asks, even if I object to it, if I don't instruct you not to answer, you do have to answer. He said, okay, I understand. He said, Tory Lanez said, so in a time like this, when I'm asking her a simple question about whether or not she is going to, in a time like this, when I'm asking her a simple question about whether or not this is going to be publicized, it's not coming from me responding to a question she asked me. I just want to ask her a simple question. Am I prohibited from asking her a question? Not answering back to her a question, but am I prohibited from asking her a question? The lawyer's like, I'll let her answer that. She said, so I am providing you admonitions and ground rules about the deposition, how this deposition is working. And before you cut me off, I was in the middle of answering the question that you did ask. These lawyers are sassy. If you want to proceed with this deposition by asking me questions rather than answers, the record will reflect that. But as a courtesy to the court reporter, I ask that you not interrupt and wait for us to finish our question or in this instance, my answer before you answer. And so the lawyer goes on, as you were asking, there is a protective order in this case. As your counsel either has or will explain to you, that designates this deposition as highly confidential for the first 30 days. And then counsel can seek to de-designate the deposition. Any other questions you have, she says, I direct you to ask your counsel those questions. Do you understand? And he said, well, my counsel wouldn't be the one leaking the video. So I think it's better said for you. No? She said, I'm not even going to respond to that with any sort of. And he said, what? Any sort of sipping of water? She was sipping her water. She said to Tory Lanez, I see what you're doing. I see what you are doing, Mr. Peterson. He said, I see what you are doing too. She said, I know this is fun for you. His lawyer butts in. We know the concern. We understand the concern. But Tory said, I just want her to tell the truth. Like, that is what this deposition is for. It's for you guys to get me on video to do what you guys have been doing for the last couple of years, to fake some sort of narrative. But go ahead, because it is a videotaped deposition. She says, okay, if you answer a question, Mr. Peterson, myself and anyone who reads the deposition transcript will assume that you understood the question. Do you understand that? He said, no. She said, okay, so if you don't understand a question, will you ask for clarification? He said, depending on how I feel at the moment. She said, okay, as your counsel already told you, we can take a break at any time, except we can't break while a question is pending. So you need to answer my question before we take a break. Do you understand that? He said, I would like no breaks. Kevin Gates, I don't get tired. She said, okay, well, unfortunately for our court reporter who is diligently taking down the record, she will be requesting breaks. Do you understand that? And Tory Lanez is like, hey, whoa, for Ronnie's sake, the court reporter, she can take as many breaks as she wants. She's a very pleasant lady. He is a character. She says, have you taken any substances or medication that could impair your ability to hear, understand, or answer my questions truthfully? Today, he says, absolutely not. These are standard questions for a deposition. Every deposition starts with these. She said, if I refer to Miss Pete as Megan the Stallion, do you understand that to be the same person? He said, I would like for you to refer to her as her regular name that you are putting on the file. I wouldn't like you to refer to anybody as their aliases or anything like that, as this is a deposition that requires that professionality. And then they put the little shady little sick instead of putting professionalism. He says, so I would like for you to just like say her name as it is on file. She's like, okay, that's not exactly my question. My question is, if I refer to her as Megan the Stallion, do you understand as a person for that to be the same person? His lawyer's like, if I may interject, in a document or a piece of evidence, Tory, it may refer to her as Megan the Stallion. That is why the counsel is suggesting that. That's the only reason. He's like, well, I'm asking her to clarify and make sure that they say her regular name. And his lawyer's like, okay, noted. All right. And then Megan the Stallion's lawyer comes back in. She says, and as Mr. Hayden explained, there may be documents that refer to Megan the Stallion. So my question to you again is, do you understand that Megan Pete is also, she goes professionally as Megan the Stallion? He said, are you telling me or are you asking me? She said, I'm asking you. Do you know? Do you know whether Miss Pete is also professionally known as Megan the Stallion? He's like, there's a lot of Miss Petes in the world. Which one are you talking about? And this is where it starts to kind of be like, okay, we're talking about the one that's suing, the plaintiff in this case. But she should have just said that. Do you know the plaintiff in this case is Megan Pete? You know, something like that. She says, okay, Megan Pete, do you understand her to also be known as Megan the Stallion? Tory Lanez is like, hey, Michael Hayden, if it's possible, could you Google how many Megan Petes there are in the world? He said, no, I'm not Googling that. The lawyer said she's just asking for a nexus between Megan Pete and this case. The plaintiff in this case, in this specific case, and going by the professional moniker of Megan the Stallion, is not a trick or anything. Believe me, she's just trying to. He said, I didn't think it was a trick. I was just asking her to clarify. The lawyer said, I'm just trying to speed things up a little bit. I mean, we can, He said, no. Tory said, no, we have all day. I got 10 years in here. We got all day. She said, yep. The lawyer said, yep, we do. We do have all 7 hours on the record. And if you would like to use all of it, I am here to use them. He said, I would love to use them all. Use all 7. She said, I'm sure you would. Okay. He said, all 7. She said, you know what? Before I go to my questions and the rest of the admonitions, I'm done with the admonitions, actually. Before I go to my questions, are you aware that Unite the People released a statement to the media regarding your deposition here today? He said, no, I was not aware of that. You're unaware of that. Okay. Did you? He said, I don't even know if that's true, what you saying. She said, okay, did you discuss or authorize or approve any statement made by Unite the People regarding your deposition today? He said, what? Can you reiterate the question, rephrase the question, reiterate? She said, did you discuss, approve, or authorize any statement made by Unite the People regarding your deposition today? He said, what do you mean discuss and approve? I need definitions for that. She said, you don't understand the word discuss? He said, no. I want the definition. I want your definition because you are asking me the questions, right? So I would like your definition, Ms. Henderson. Thank you. She said, okay, did you speak with or talk to? So she rephrased the question. Instead of saying discuss, she's rephrased it. Did you speak with or talk to anyone at Unite the People about your deposition? He said, no, I want the definition of what you're talking about, discuss. She said, I'm the one asking questions, so he cuts her off. Well, I need to comprehend them. She said, this is unresponsive. He says, am I tripping? Or do I not need to understand everything that she says? I need to understand it, correct? I need to know what she's saying. She said, so you do understand that this deposition may be played in front of a jury and they will be watching this. And so if you wanted to leave the record as you don't understand my question, he said, absolutely, I don't. I'm not leaving the record as I don't understand your question. You are talking over me when you asked me not to cut you off. I'm not saying I don't understand. I am asking you to clarify. Those are two big differences in clarifying and not understanding. In fact, I would believe that clarifying is so that you can understand more. Am I wrong? She said, Mr. Peterson, did you talk to anyone at Unite the People about a statement regarding your deposition? A statement. There was a statement that came out, a press release by Caesar McDowell. You going to understand my client? I understand my client, whatever. Did you talk to anybody about that statement? He said, you still have not given me the definitions of the words that you first asked. And I'm asking for those so I can give you a clear and understandable answer. She said, I changed my question. My question is, did you talk to anyone at Unite the People about a statement regarding a deposition? He said, that wasn't your question. She said, but that's my question now. And they can change their questions. You can change your question to make it more clear, especially once somebody tells you that their question wasn't understandable. You have actually duty. You have a duty to rephrase the question. He said, can you reiterate the question? So once she did do that, we left that word discuss. We already left that away. But I do understand his kind of like, I mean, I would say paranoia, but I would say it's well-founded. It's like something that's just like, you just know they're just always scheming and plotting. So they probably already got him in some ways that he never expected. If I had to guess, I don't know. I wasn't there. She said, I'm moving on from that question. And I'm going to strike that as non-responsive. He said, I did respond. You don't just get to strike things. She said, okay, I'm going to mark as next in order. She was about to start marking an exhibit and he cuts her off. And this is the part where we had already read earlier. He says, I want this to be known on the record. I don't trust this woman. I know that the fact that these people are the same people who have me in prison wrongfully convicted of a crime that I did not commit, that no physical evidence even says that I have committed it. I don't trust this woman. So when I'm asking for a clarification on things, it's not because I am trying to be difficult or extra of any sort. I just have to fine comb everything. Because the people that this woman works for are despicable, and they do things at the expense of someone else's freedom for their own personal gain. So I don't trust this woman. So if I seem like I am coming off in any kind of way, I'm trying to be as respectful as I can. I just want all the clarity. And if that comes off to anybody like I'm doing something that's undermining or some sort of way like that, I apologize, but I just want my clarity. So Ms. Henderson, I'm just letting you know that's where the basis of my questions come from when I'm asking you to clarify things. She said, okay, well, my question before you started that was, did you talk to anyone at Unite the People about a statement regarding your deposition? And so I will be moving to strike the answer as non-responsive. And now I would like to move on. By marking as next in order, I believe Ronnie is Exhibit 39. I'm going to ask the tech to pull up tab 2. And I would like you to scroll down to the next page. And if, for purposes of everyone, if you could zoom in. Do you see that, Mr. Peterson? Do you see that this is a statement entitled Unite the People Incorporated CEO Caesar McDowell sets the record straight on deposition in regarding Tory Lanez? Do you see that? He said, no, the way this screen is, like, it's just so small, I can't see anything. Mr. Jin, the lawyer says, can you please zoom in? Tory said, I know you think that's solving the problem, but I swear on my side it is not. Can you just read me whatever the document says that you're talking about? She said, okay, fine, I'll read you the document. But if you'd like to take a break so that you can change the settings of your Zoom, he cuts her off. He says, I can't change the settings, Mary. I'm in prison. This is their equipment. I'm not going to get a write-up for touching their equipment. I'm not allowed to touch it. I can't take a break and adjust the Zoom settings because I'm in prison because of you people. Or whatever, paraphrase. She says, I understand that. My question is, do you see any document on the screen or you see no document? He said, I see a bunch of words, but I cannot make out what they are because they're too small. And I guess it's just the way the screen is set up. So I'm asking you if maybe you can just read whatever it is that you're talking about. Okay. She said, so this is a statement entitled Unite the People, Inc. Caesar McDowell sets the record straight on deposition in regarding Tory Lanez. And this statement reads in part, quote, Tory Lanez is not a party to Megan Thee Stallion's lawsuit against Unite the People client Milagro Cooper. And therefore, Unite the People is not obligated to produce Tory Lanez for a deposition. Nor did Unite the People agree or disagree to a deposition of Tory Lanez or any other potential witness. Now, this is weird because Unite the People really, I don't think, has any grounds to agree or disagree to a deposition. Now, maybe a lawyer, a specific lawyer from Unite the People. So the lawyer asks, do you see that? Are you aware of that statement that Unite the People released? He said, you are not showing me anything because I can't see what you are talking about. However, I mean, you're saying, am I aware? I'm not aware of anything, and I can't see what you are talking about. The lawyer said, okay, well, if you can't see what I'm talking about, then why don't we take a break? Go off the record, and then we will contact the prison to change the settings so you can see the exhibits. He said, okay. Okay, the videographer, they come back. This takes about 7-8 minutes. Okay, so over the break, we had Counselor Hernandez, who works at the prison, come in and check the settings on the computer, and we pulled up the same document, Exhibit 39, and asked if he could read it. He confirmed it was legible, and he could see the document, and he read the first lines of the document. So I'm going to pull up Exhibit 39 back on the screen, and if you could zoom in on the second page. Mr. Peterson, the very last paragraph of the statement says, quote, lastly, if you know Tory Lanez how I do, good luck trying to get him to, quote, testify to anything. It's just not what he does. And he definitely did not, quote, agree to testify now. Tory said, I don't know that that says that. Still, you pulled up the same thing at the same size, and I still cannot read it. You asked somebody else for their opinion on whether they can read it. That person has glasses on their face, and that person is standing right next to the screen. Plus, you asked him not only to read something here, you asked him to read the most boldest, biggest part of this document and nothing else. So again, you lose. Sorry. She said, okay, so I'm just asking, can you hear me? Tory Lanez Peterson? He said, sometimes. She said, okay, can you hear me when I said that there was a statement released that said, lastly, if you know Tory Lanez how I do, good luck trying to get him to testify to something? He said, I cannot see that statement, so I cannot attest to what you are talking about. She said, okay, fine. That's not my question. My question is, can you hear me when I say lastly, da 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 da? He said, I can hear you. Okay. She said, and will you agree? That's what you're doing today, right now? You are evading the testimony right now? He said, evading the testimony? I think I'm here for testimony. Michael, he turns to his lawyer, is this not a hearing? He said, this is a hearing. Is this not a testimony I'm doing? Excuse me, Miss Henderson. I'm talking to my lawyer right now. Michael Hayden, is this not a testimony that I am doing right now? The lawyer said, well, I mean, it's a deposition, but you do have to answer the questions. He said, but in some sort of way, my words will make up what they call testimony, right? Because I'm under oath. Yes, exactly, he said. Or am I wrong? Am I wrong? The lawyer said, well, you're partially right. But at the same time, we have, and then Tory cuts him off. So when she asks me, am I evading the testimony? What does that mean? The lawyer said, that means you're not answering the questions being asked, is what she means. If you can't see it and you have no personal knowledge, or if you have no personal knowledge of it, you just say no, if you've never seen this. The lawyer said, that's not my question. And in fact, we can put down Exhibit 39. Mr. Peterson, did you know that Unite the People put out a statement that read, quote, if you know Tory Lanez like I do, good luck trying to get him to testify to anything. It's just not what he does. He said, I don't recall. Okay, so you don't recall one way or the other whether Unite the People released that. He said, you're adding extra stuff to what I said. Don't put words in my mouth. I said, I don't recall. She said, okay, so I have a new question. New question is, you do not recall one way or another whether Unite the People released a statement regarding your testimony today. He said, I don't. Okay, if I refer to the defendant in this action, then Tory Lanez said, well, hold on. Well, how come I can't see myself? I would like to look at myself. The lawyer's like, okay. He wanted to see himself with that virtual background. He said, I would like to see the trees behind me. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like. She cuts him off. Okay, fine. Let's take a break and go off record. He said, we don't need to go off the record. I would like to see myself in the camera. I don't know why I can't see the actions that my body is doing if I am being recorded. Mr. Hayden, am I wrong? I mean, shouldn't I be able to see myself? Mr. Hayden said, I'm not really sure if that's in the scope of the rules. He said, they had me seeing myself before. I was looking pretty good. Pretty damn good if you ask me. She's like, I'm going off the record. Okay, so they go off the record. They go back on the record. Okay, so my last question, which I did not get through before you interrupted me, was if I referred to the defendant in this action as Milagro or Ms. Cooper, do you understand that to be the same person? He said, yes. Okay. Have you ever been deposed before? He's like, I think so. Have you ever been in a deposition like we're doing today? Have you ever been in a deposition like this? He's like, I'm not sure. And then they go back and forth over whether he's ever been deposed before. Asking for a definition of I think so. I mean, it gets tedious. She said, I'm going to move to ask the question one more time, and then I'm going to move to strike as non-responsive. Do you know what the subject matter was that you testified before? He said, no, I can't recall. Okay. And you chose not to testify at your criminal trial in December 2022? Tory Lanez said, you're asking me a legal question that I'm not answering. And I don't blame him for this. This in particular, I don't blame him for. He doesn't want to answer questions about his criminal trial. And that is fine. I think that's fine. I don't think he has to answer those questions. I think he can plead the fifth. He said it has nothing to do with this case. And then his lawyer even pipes in finally. He's like, attorney-client privilege. I'm instructing him not to answer. So then the lawyer for Megan Thee Stallion goes, okay, just so the record is clear. You objected first, Mr. Peterson, and then your counsel. And I'm just asking. And he's like, is that funny to you? That's fine. It's a lawyer. It's a lawyer joke or something. You first, then your counsel. What's funny? What's so funny about that? Is that a lawyer joke, Mike? Mike says, objection, Fifth Amendment privilege, instruct the witness not to answer. She said, can I just finish my question? Then you can launch your objection, Mr. Hayden. He said, you were finished. I objected right after you finished your question because I missed the last one. She said, okay, I did not finish my question. Did you testify at your criminal trial in December of 2022? Is that a yes or a no? Objection. Tory Lanez said objection. And technically, he's not really supposed to be doing the objections because he seems to have acceded to this lawyer to be his lawyer. But again, that is up for dispute. That is up for debate. So listen, if I'm in there, I would object. I mean, if I'm in there, I would object before I would say Fifth Amendment, I plead the fifth. He said, don't ask me anything about any criminal proceedings that have to do with my case on a criminal level. How about that? How about that? She said, I am simply asking, did you testify? Just for the record, you're not answering my questions. Then we can bring it to the court to decide. Did you testify at your criminal trial in December? And again, he's already been instructed not to answer by his lawyer. The court reporter said, the lady typing everything down said, I cannot get all this. When he keeps saying, I object in between, like there's no way I can possibly get all this. And then Tory Lanez looks over at Ronnie and said, Ronnie, she keeps asking stupid questions. I am trying to help her. Then his lawyer jumps in. Tory, I will object for you. But we got to wait till she's done with the question. And then I can object like I did the first time. She's just rereading the same question. Tory said, well, she should have waited to wait for that hair dye. It's the wrong blonde. Oh. She should have waited to wait for that hair dye. It's the wrong blonde. Check the roots. Check the roots. Anyway, go ahead. He said, oh my God, our cousin Tory knows about which blondes are the right blonde and the wrong blonde. Oh my God, don't watch my videos. Did you testify at your criminal trial in December 2022? Objection, Fifth Amendment. I instruct the witness not to answer. The lawyer said, okay, so I'm going to put some cases on for the record, Mr. Hayden, because my simple question was whether or not he testified. And you do understand that the Fifth Amendment privilege only applies when there's reasonable cause to fear criminal liability. That must be contingent on it must be sufficiently real that there is a likelihood of prosecution, and that is Engelbrick versus Worthington. And so, Mr. Hayden, is it your position that the question of did you testify at your criminal trial is subject to the Fifth Amendment privilege? Mr. Hayden's like, oh, just kidding. I withdraw. Who cares? Like, yeah, no, he can answer. It's a yes or no. Mr. Peterson, did you testify at your criminal trial? Hello? Can you hear my question? Mr. Peterson? Okay, so now he's not responding to the question for the record. He did confirm earlier that he could hear me, and now he is not responding. So, Mr. Peterson, I will ask you once more for the record. Did you testify at your criminal trial? He said, hey, guys, the audio keeps clipping in and out. So sometimes I can hear what she's saying, and sometimes I can't. It just totally clipped out. I didn't hear anything she said in the last, 5 seconds. She said, okay, well, let's go off the record and get Mr. Henderson back in. Tory said, that's fine with me, big dog. Okay, they go off the record. They go back on the record. Sorry. Mr. Peterson. Okay, this is the Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer. Mr. Peterson, what is it that you were saying right before we went back on the record? Tory said, if it wasn't on the record, it's not important. She said, oh, okay. Were you telling Ronnie, the court reporter, that she is the right blonde and did a good job? Tory said, I said no such thing. What are you talking about? The lawyer said, okay. He said, are you putting words in my mouth, Miss Henderson? This kind of makes me feel scared about the rest of this deposition. She just put words in my mouth, Michael Hayden. He's telling his lawyer and he's telling him by name. She just put words in my mouth, Michael Hayden. Hayden said, I understand. Let's just go forward with the record. He said, how is she allowed to say that? No. She just did something she's not allowed to do. She's not allowed to say what I said or to fake and say that I said something I didn't say. You can't do that. What are you doing? She said, okay, I don't want to have to bring Ronnie, the court reporter, in as a witness. He said, Miss Henderson, what is that what you're doing? The lawyer said, we were off the record. She was making a comment, but we were off the record. No. Is this what you do in your cases? Is this how you handle your cases? You put words in people's mouths? The lawyer said, so, Mr. Peterson, I'm going to go back. No. So you're just skipping what I'm asking you now? Because you just asked me something on record about something that was off the record. Tried to say something, and you put words in my mouth. And so now I'm asking you, is that how you conduct your services? Mr. Peterson, I am the one asking questions here today. He said, well, I'm clearly asking you the questions right now. I mean, you can answer or not. It's very simple. She said, okay, the question I asked before we went off the record was, did you testify at your, and you know what, on that one right there, I actually do appreciate him making a big deal about it, because his lawyer wasn't going to make a big deal about it. And because we weren't there in the room, it would be easy to kind of just slide over it and be like, skim right past it and be like, well, what's he do? Haha, he's making fun. But really, we weren't on the record. They weren't on the record. So whenever they got back on the record, she's trying to, maybe, I don't know what he exactly said, but she is trying to put her own version of things on the record. And he goes a page and a half, 2 pages of authentically Erica's like, let me cut a piece of carrot cake. Send me a piece. He's like, look, hold up. No, that's what you do? That's how you do your business? That's how you do your business. You just put words in my mouth. No, 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 no. Look at all these no's in a row. He hit her with the no, 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 no. He hit her with the no, 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 no. Look at all these no's. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. She just did something she's not allowed to do. And you know what? I appreciate him standing up for himself because nobody else was standing up for him in here. She said, okay, the question I asked before we went off the record, did you testify at your criminal trial in December 2022? Yes or no? He said no. Okay. You're being represented here today by Mr. Hayden from Unite the People. Do you understand? Yes. Do you understand that your counsel representing you here today is also Miss Cooper's attorney in this case? He said, I'm really not aware of what they do beyond me. I'm not aware of what they do beyond the scope of me. Okay. Next question. Did you meet with Mr. Hayden or any other attorneys to prepare for your deposition today? He said, when you say meet, what do you mean? She said, well, what does the word meet mean to you? He said, well, I would ask you for the Webster dictionary version of meet, if you could explain that to me just for clarification. And I don't mind him asking this after, like what we read earlier, like what is a communication? What is a document? A document is a picture, according to them. Okay. So actually, it's not a stupid question. It's not a stupid request, but he could say, what I think meat is, but you know what? Why? She should have to say exactly what she's asking. Just ask. She said, I'm asking you the questions. What does the word meat mean to you? He said, well, I don't have access to the same things you have access to. I'm sure that you are the one asking the questions. So what does meat mean? It could mean a lot of things to me, he said. I mean, meat could be a hot dog, could be a steak, could be red meat, could be a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Could mean watch corn. Meat is a whole different thing over there. Meat can be anything. I'm asking you what your definition is of meat because you are asking the question. Okay, new question. She's like, did you talk to Mr. Hayden before your deposition today? No, I did not. Okay, did you talk to any other attorneys before the deposition today? No. Okay. Did you talk to Caesar McDowell, the CEO of Unite the People, before your deposition about your deposition? He said, I do not understand the question you are posing. Who is Caesar McDowell? Okay, then he gets real philosophical. And this one, y'all, he's not wrong, but it is kind of like, it makes it harder and harder to kind of like show later in court that he wasn't trying to evade testimony. But I mean, it is kind of funny. Like, he's funny. He's very entertaining. Who is Caesar McDowell? He said, who are you? He hit her with the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland. Who are you? Who? He is in there. Okay. Y'all remember the caterpillars like, and those like little rings? I just imagine that. Who are you? Who are you? Like, how do I just put one man in one definition? Who is this man? I do not know. He probably has many layers to him. I don't know. What exactly do you mean by who is this man? Do you mean who is he spiritually? Do you mean who is he physically? Do you mean like who is he personally? Do you mean like who is he like to me? What do you mean, Miss Henderson? Please clarify. She's like, Caesar McDowell is the CEO of Unite the People. Is that right? He said, well, if you know who he was, then why are you asking me? Why are you asking me? If you knew who this guy was, why are you asking me who he is? You already know. She said, I'm going to move to strike as non-responsive. My question is, Caesar McDowell is the CEO of Unite the People. Is that right? He said, I'm going to let you tell it. You clearly know him. Okay. Are you refusing to answer my question? No, that's my answer. I'll let you tell it. You clearly know him. That is my answer. Put it on file. Thank you, Ronnie, he said. He's done made friends with Ronnie, the court reporter. I don't know if she's I don't know if the friendship is mutual, but he's taken a liking to Ronnie. Okay, did you talk to Caesar McDowell before your deposition about your deposition? He said, not that I can recall. Okay. Did you speak with anybody to prepare for your deposition today? He said, not that I can recall. Did you speak with your dad, Son Star Peterson, about your deposition? He said, I don't recall. Okay. You don't recall one way or the other whether you spoke to your dad about your deposition today? He said, at this very moment, my brain slipped. I don't recall. Okay. Did you speak with your dad, Sunstar Peterson, about his deposition? I don't recall. Okay. Did you know that your dad was also deposed in this case? He said, I don't know. Okay. If your dad, Sunstar Peterson, said he spoke to you about this deposition, do you have any reason to dispute what your dad is saying? He said, if he had said it to me, I just don't recall at this moment that conversation. It could have happened. It could have not happened. I just don't recall. Okay. So you don't recall whether since Friday you've had any conversations with your dad about the fact he was deposed in this case? That's your testimony? Tory said, Miss Henderson, I'm in prison. There's a lot of things going on. And I do not recall that right now, amongst the other things that I have had to deal with on a daily basis. Okay. Did you review any documents to prepare for your deposition today? He said, I'm sorry? Did you review any documents to prepare for your deposition today? He said, did you review the documents on the color of the dye you were going to use for your hair? She said, I'm going to move to strike as non-responsive and I'm going to ask again. He said, well, that's a real answer. I don't understand. That's a true answer. Why are you striking what I'm saying if these are my answers? Why are you striking my answers? Why? Why are you striking my answers, Miss Henderson? Can you explain that to me? She said, let me ask my question for Ronnie's sake before you answer. Did you review any documents to prepare for your deposition today? He said, but you didn't answer my question. And I feel like it's starting to be like it's one-sided. Like you're not allowing me to understand what I need to understand so I can understand. Tory, you're, quote, like you are not allowing me to understand what I need to understand so I can understand. Because your hair is distracting me. There's a reason for what I'm asking. Your hair is distracting me. Oh. She said, okay. I'm going to go off the record and stop this deposition at this point. Let's take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break. He said, enjoy yourself. It's 10:56 Pacific time. We're off the record. He said, I just want to say on the record that Miss Henderson's hair is distracting me. Okay. So they're back on the record. Okay, so before we went off the record, my question to you was, did you review any documents to prepare for today's deposition? He said, I don't understand. Can you say the question again? Did you review any documents to prepare for today's deposition? Did I review? What do you mean by review? She said, well, what does the word review mean to you? He said, what does it mean to you? So I can answer your question. Okay. Did you look at any documents to prepare for your deposition today? What does the word look mean to you? He said, I guess it means looking at something, but what does it mean to you though, in the context you are asking? She said, did you look at any documents to prepare for this deposition today? You're asking me the same question. The lawyer just looks at Tory and goes, you're not getting out of this one. Like you pretty much have to answer it. And then Tory's like, fine. No, no, I didn't look at any documents. How come we can't see that? Okay. She did try to go off the record beforehand, right? She tried to say, I want to end this deposition now, but they went back on the record. So she did already try to, sorry. Up here, look, before they went off the record that last time, 11:01 a.m. or 10:56, we're off the record. Okay, I'm going to go off the record and stop this deposition at this point. Does that mean stop for the day or just going off the record briefly? I'm going to stop the deposition at this point because remember, you only have a limited time for your deposition. It's like 7 hours, 4 hours. Today, theirs was 7 hours. So if they use all the 7 hours on just not answering questions, then they don't get to ask their questions. So there's this balancing thing that has to be done. Is Neem in the chat? Shout out to Neem in the chat. Oh my gosh, shout out to the cousins in Neem's live chat. Yep, we're going over the Tory Lanez deposition transcript. And he is crazy. He is funny. He is comedianing his way right through this deposition, I will say. I don't know if I would necessarily, have said this and done this myself, but at this point he is right. He already got 10 years. Like, what else is there to really lose? Okay. So he's like, your hair is distracting. She's like, all right, I'm going to stop wasting my deposition time at this point. I'm going to go off the record. 10-minute break. Okay, so they come back. I just want to say on the record that her hair is distracting to me. Okay, before we went off the record, my question to you is, did you review any documents to prepare for the deposition today? Did you look at any? He said, how come we can't see the other person that's in your room? Now recall the DJ Academics. Recall the DJ Academics deposition with these same group of lawyers that he leaked. Remember when he showed their accidentally shared group chat and they were like, tell Dez that he couldn't make it through the whole deposition without tweeting about it. Tell Dez. And a lot of people, including me, kind of assumed that meant Desiree Perez, who's the CEO of Roc Nation. Now, this is a big deal because Desiree Perez has claimed that she don't really have too much to do with the day-to-day whatever's going on with Milagro, and especially not her, with Megan Thee Stallion, especially not her litigation. Well, then why would we be needing to update Dez in the middle of somebody's deposition? So this right here made my antenna wee woo. Okay. How come we can't see the other person that's in your room? It makes me wonder who else is in the room. She didn't answer the question. She just responds, did you do anything to prepare for your deposition today? He said, is there a second lawyer present? And there was, that Julian Shern, but who else is in the room? She said, I'm asking you, did you do anything to prepare for your deposition today? He said, 1 second. I will answer your question shortly. Michael Hayden, does she have a second lawyer present? Mr. Hayden said, I wouldn't know. I am remote. I'm remote just like you. So if she does, they're from the same law firm, the same legal counsel. He said, can I see that person? His lawyer said, I can't. I'm going to ask once more. The new lawyer, the Megan's lawyer. So he's saying, who's in that room with you? Remember, Julian Shern was one of the people, but I don't know if they're in the room with her. It's someone else is in the room with her. And he's saying, why can't I see the people in the room with you? She ignores the question. I'm going to ask you once more. Did you do anything to prepare for your deposition? He said, hold on. You're not giving me, hey, hold on. Miss Henderson, you need to give me the amount of time and the proper considerations to talk to my counsel. I'm asking him a question and you are interrupting. Please stop. Now, technically speaking, I can appreciate where Tory Lanez is coming from. However, on the record is not the time to talk to your lawyer and have drawn out, like asking them question stuff. You are supposed to go off the record because what you're talking to your lawyer about is supposed to be privileged. And also the time for the deposition is not supposed to be for lawyer conversations with your own lawyer. You are supposed to go off the record for that. Now, does it happen? Can you do it a few times? Yeah, sure. But they've only been here for like 40 minutes and he's already had several conversations with the lawyer. So, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just trying to tell y'all how it actually works. He's like, hold on. I need to talk to my lawyer. Michael Hayden. So can I see the person that she is in the room with? Michael Hayden said, no, you cannot. There's court reporters. There's all kind of people in the room, but I would. He said, no. I'm talking about in Miss Henderson's room. She said, I'm interrupting this because this is my deposition and you can ask your counsel about these types of questions when y'all are out there. Interrupt. Hold on. Tory said, why are you screaming? Please lower your voice. You lower your voice. You are making me feel threatened, he said. She said, you can ask. Okay. You are making me feel threatened, he said. She said, okay, at this point, I'm going to suspend the deposition because the witness is clearly non-cooperative. He said, I am cooperative. She said, let the record speak for itself. We can let the record speak for itself. I will be moving to compel. Tory Lanez said, Michael Hayden, do you see this? She's not giving me a chance to speak. She said, and this is not over. He said, she's not giving me any chance to speak. This is crazy. This is ridiculous. She's not even. His lawyer said, let her make her record, though. Let her make the record. Let her make the record. He said, she's not giving me a chance to legally clarify with my counsel questions. And she is getting frustrated. And now she's intimidating me by screaming and raising her voice. She said, okay, I'm going to put on the record that at this point I'm suspending the deposition because the witness is clearly evading my questions and is non-responsive. And we will be moving to compel this deposition with the court. So, Mr. Peterson, this is not over, and we will see you another day, which I know you said you have all the time in the world. So we will see you again for volume 2 of this deposition. Thank you. He said, change your hair next time. Oh. So I just want to point out how close it was to the time of him saying, I want to see the other person who's in the room with you, that all of a sudden she wants to suspend the deposition. Now, I will say it was not a particularly stellar deposition performance from or by Tory Lanez. That being said, I'm sympathetic to where he's coming from, considering all he's been through. I'm not trying to say he shouldn't have. You know what? He could do whatever he wants. He could say whatever he wants. There's certain ways to act. There's certain ways to act if you want certain treatment by the court. And there's certain ways to get treated worse, for sure, by the court. And, that's up to each individual to decide for their own self. Okay, so she suspends the deposition. And then he just goes absolutely in on the hair. Comb it at least. Will you please comb that hair at least? The court reporter said, we'll do the transcripts after. Yes, I'll be ordering this transcript and this video. He said, Tory Lanez said, thank you so much. Just comb it. That's all I ask. And the videographer's talking, a honeycomb, a brush, a Barbie brush, anything at all to brush that hair. Okay, if there's nothing else, I can go ahead and read us off there. Okay, he said, a comb. Bring a comb. Thank you. Bring a comb. Girl. Okay, I'm just wondering, was Desiree Perez in the room and he was like, can I see the other person in the room? And she was like, no. And then that's why they ended it right there. Or was she really just about to end it anyway? Who knows? Y'all can tell me. Now, we do have a whole entire other deposition that I'm going to pull up. This is the one from just a few weeks ago. He got deposed again. And if you could believe it, it's just as crazy as the one we just read, but for different reasons. Let me pull that up. Okay. Just as crazy, but completely different side of your brain is about to start working than what we were just doing. So this is the deposition from September 15th. It says it on here. 15th, 2025. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago. In-person remote real-time video deposition of Daystar Peterson, also known as Tory Lanez. Different lawyer here this time. Hair lawyer did not want to deal with him. Okay, Harry did not want to deal with him. Now it's Marie Harapetian. I don't know, girl. And then John O'Sullivan. These are the ones for Megan Thee Stallion. And then for Milagro, we have the Dixon Justice Center. So no more Unite the People. And for the witness, see how on this appearances sheet, it's different than the last appearances sheet. The last one did not say for the witness. It said appellate counsel for the witness. So it wasn't the same. As this one, where it's like Crystal Morgan clearly is showing up to represent him. And then there's a judge that ends up coming in and making an appearance as well. They got to call the judge. They call the judge in as the referee. We'll get to it. Okay, proceedings. Daystar Peterson is administered the oath. Objection to the deposition by Ms. Morgan, and then the court granted a continuation of the deposition to a future stipulated date, October 2025. Okay. Good morning. My name is Adam. I'm the videographer. I'm not financially interested in this action. Today is September 15th. The deposition is taken at the California Men's Colony. The deposition is also taken remotely via Zoom. The name of the case is Megan Pete versus Milagro Cooper. This is a video recorded deposition of Tory Lanez. Would counsel in the room please identify yourselves? For the plaintiff, for Megan Thee Stallion, is this John O'Sullivan from Quinn Emanuel. Ms. Hayrapishian for the plaintiff. Also Quinn Emanuel. Dixon, Rhonda Dixon from the Dixon Justice Center for Milagro Cooper. And also for the record, we didn't state that it was the Southern District of Florida Federal Court that we were actually having the deposition. Deposition is actually in California Men's Colony, okay? Crystal, we have one more person, I think, who is going to appear. Crystal Morgan on behalf of Daystar Peterson from Morgan Legal Services. With the court reporter swear in the witness. Okay, so this is his second deposition, and look at the top of the page, y'all. It just hit the docket yesterday. This is brand new public information as of yesterday. Today's October 8th. This hit the docket yesterday. Okay, so this is brand new breaking info. I will now swear in the witness. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give? Yep. And he's like, I don't plan on giving testimony today. And y'all, that ends up being more true than I could have ever anticipated. He said, I don't plan on giving testimony today, but if I do in any sort, yes, it will be the truth. Okay, thank you. So his lawyer says, first of all, I would like to formally object to this deposition at all before we even get started this morning. And I do apologize for the late entry. I know that Tory Lanez didn't know the exact date and time of this deposition until late on Thursday and got a hold of me as soon as possible. So this only came to fruition for me as of Saturday. So they only had a few days. I think Crystal Morgan learned about this about 3 days before the deposition, that there even was supposed to be one. She said, I am not familiar with this case. I'm not active on social media. I don't follow anyone. So I have to first object due to no 10-day notice requirement and no time for us to prepare for this deposition. I further object because I strongly feel that Mr. Peterson does not have subject matter jurisdiction. There's no subject matter jurisdiction over Mr. Peterson to even compel his testimony. This is because I think from what I've been able to put together over the weekend that we're compelling him through Federal Rule 37B, but 37B only applies to parties. Tory Lanez is not a party to this case. I found where another non-party was also given an order to show cause through the Southern District of California, and that order to show cause was denied because under Rule 37A, that's how the compelled testimony can come to fruition. Therefore, Crystal Morgan, Tory Lanez's lawyer, says, I feel that because Tory Lanez is in the men's colony in California, that we need to go to the Northern District of California to compel today's meeting. And I do know that people have flown a long distance to this deposition, but I still don't believe that there's subject matter jurisdiction to go forward today. This is not waivable. Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer said, okay, hold on. Just to quickly respond, we believe we do have jurisdiction because this is merely a continuation of that prior deposition where he was saying that the girl's hair was bad blonde and all that. It's pursuant to the court's order. The court has inherent jurisdiction to finish the deposition, and you're free to make a motion here or in Florida. But as you said, everybody's already here. There was a lot of logistics for all of us to fly down. So, okay, so Megan's lawyers have flown down from all over, from California and all these different players from Florida. They've all flown over there to California to do Tory Lanez's deposition. And they get in there, they've flown there in hotels, they're whatever. And Crystal Morgan's like, actually, no, we're not doing this today. And they're like, what? We flew here. We sent you a notice on September 8th. They're about to get into it. He said, look, we're already all here. Just, we're prepared to proceed. And then Milagro's lawyer's like, hold on, I want to add to that. Caesar McDowell, remember him, the CEO from Unite the People, who's no longer on this case? He was in the same situation as Daystar, as Tory Lanez, in that he was a third party and he was a non-party witness to this case. This order came in at the same time, basically treating him differently. So neither one of them were represented by counsel at the time. And the court at that time stated Quinn Emanuel needed to have counsel on board for these depositions. All of the people, there was Ryan Stogner, there was Caesar McDowell. And I was told, so I mean, I'm in the process of filing a motion to compel Mr. Stogner's deposition. Okay, so there's some information for the people who are following the case really closely. Mr. Stogner, Ryan Stogner, sounds familiar from the trial somehow. His deposition is getting compelled as per Miss Dixon in the Milagro case. In the Central District of California, that's how it's normally done, but somehow the court departed in this particular instance. This same situation exactly, because Mr. Caesar McDowell had actually appeared, and then he wanted to do a motion to compel. It was the same exact situation. They wanted to compel him. United People was represent. I'm kind of skipping through some of this stuff right here because they just kind of go back and forth about treating Tory Lanez and Caesar McDowell differently, but the judge gives a good reason later as to why. So we'll get to that. Okay, so this is Megan's lawyer. Okay, Your Honor, just to finish, I mean, Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer is like, we're here because a judge previously, Judge Altanaga, we have jurisdiction. There's a lot of people here. We flew here. We're really getting these brand new arguments on motions that Tory Lanez's lawyer never bothered to make yet. So the disposition of this transcript or whatever happens here, you can make your motions, but we're all here. We flew here. As you said, we did our best from the very beginning of the judge entertaining this to get everybody noticed. And there is a paper trail on that. And if you make a motion, that will all be surfaced. But at this point, Your Honor, I would just ask for permission to proceed with this deposition. Milagro's lawyer comes in. Okay, this is not Tory's lawyer. This is Milagro's lawyer. Your Honor, one more thing. I would suggest that Crystal Morgan file an emergency order in the federal court and as an injunction against this, because this is not, the judge does not have subject matter, but personal jurisdiction over Tory Lanez. The court doesn't have that. Of course, Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer is like, no, I disagree with that. But Milagro's lawyer said you can't command somebody in a different district to do something without sending it to that district first. That's how jurisdiction works. Then they called the judge. The judge said, let me see if I can clear this up. First of all, this is what I'm seeing. This was filed as document 65. There was a request for sanctions against Tory Lanez. The reason they requested sanctions was because of the failure to properly respond to questions at the initial deposition. What I see in the docket is an order from the district judge granting the sanctions requested. The sanctions was to continue the deposition. Okay, so Tory Lanez got sanctioned. One of the sanctions was that he had to come back. He had to come back and finish answering the questions that he refused to answer or was non-responsive. Yes, Stogner is the officer who said the fragments were missing. Interesting. Very interesting. I knew it sounded familiar. The judge said, what I see in the docket is an order from a judge granting sanctions. And one of the sanctions is Tory had to continue his deposition. So it's not technically, this is how they mince words, right? This isn't a new deposition, even though it's a new place with new lawyers and a new day and a new time. It's not. No. This is the same deposition, but just a continuation. The judge says the order that I'm seeing, document 104, is not in response to the motion to compel a deposition, but what I'm seeing is an order from the district judge saying that the deposition is to be continued. It's the same deposition. So I'm not seeing a difference between the other case. I'm trying to think of the Caesar McDowell. The court says there was a request to compel his attendance at a deposition, but this is simply, according to the judge, a continuation. So technically, it's just simply a continuation, which means all of a sudden the judge magically has jurisdiction. Whereas if this were compelling a second deposition, then this judge, now I don't think this judge actually does have power. And this is where stuff starts to go, or jurisdiction, I should say. And this is where things start to go a little sideways on this one. Docket 42. Okay, so now this is Megan's lawyer. Docket number 42 is the original order from the judge back in February ordering this deposition because the witness was in prison. We did have to go through the court. So there's an earlier order from Altanaga. So if this is sinister to me, because if Tory Lanez had been out of prison, then he could have just hired a private lawyer, just like Aiden Ross did, and fight it and not go to this deposition. But because he was in prison, they were able to get the judge to approve this deposition. And they kind of sort of skirted around the requirement that Tory Lanez actually be represented by counsel, because he was kind of represented by counsel with that guy who represents him in the criminal trial. But he was not represented by counsel at that time in April, or especially not in February, by Crystal Morgan, who's representing him now, or by anybody in regard to the civil case. Yes, they called the judge, and he or she is on the phone right now in the deposition transcript. Nikki, I'm not going to disagree. Y'all, I just want to be very clear. He has a right to be peed off. He has a right to cuss these people out. But is that really going to move the needle for him in the way that I think it needs to be? No, it's not. But he has full right to act and say and do whatever he wants to do, and to be very pissed. Totally. He has the right to do that. Because the witness in prison, we had to go through the court. So the judge just ordered it instead of Tory being able to just hire like a lawyer out. So, he's barely even getting notice of this stuff. Watch what Crystal says. It's crazy. It's crazy, but I do believe it, because just how I've seen Tory Lanez be treated by the system, I would believe that they did anything, truly. This is Megan Thee Stallion's lawyer talking, saying, we had to go through the court to get an order allowing us to depose him, setting up that first deposition. And so then Milagro's lawyer's like, all right, but that means she would have met jurisdiction to do that. And so the prior lawyer, as you know, so Milagro's lawyer is even speaking up for Tory. She's saying, my lawyer, she's speaking up for Milagro. She says, just so you know, Your Honor, my client, Milagro, the actual defendant, the named party defendant in this case, she has an issue of ineffective assistance. I represent her. She has an issue of ineffective assistance of counsel with that particular counsel simply because they didn't raise jurisdictional limits. They did not properly respond to the motion to compel because he was not represented in this motion to compel once again. So I don't see that would be relevant for him. He didn't have an attorney at the time. So this is what it's all coming down to. Was Tory Lanez actually represented by counsel at the time such that his rights would have been respected? And I think no. Megan's lawyer said, hold on, Rhonda from Dixon Law Center, Milagro's lawyer. You're arguing motions you haven't made. And you're arguing motions that Crystal Morgan hasn't made. So why is this being brought up right now? She said, well, you keep holding me to time frames that I wasn't there for. You keep telling me that I should know everything that happened in this case before I even got here. So, what is it? Do I not, or do I? Yeah, I'm going to argue something that I'm just finding out about. Yeah, that's Milagro's lawyer. Megan's lawyer said, well, so what are we supposed to do? We've been litigating this case the whole way since day one. So you come in late and say, I'm going to protect. The court said, oh, excuse me, can I speak? The judge said, Mr. O'Sullivan, I think the previous judge, Judge Altanaga, wanted a judge here so that we could make a ruling. And I would like to go ahead and make that ruling. Here, the judge said, we have a difference between Caesar McDowell and this particular party or non-party, third party non-party. That order was months ago in April. There's no objection to that order at all. And then we have a notice of deposition that was dated September the 8th. We have no objection to that deposition notice. So we arrive here today. Okay, September the 8th. Remember, what day is it on the day that they're here? Is September 15th. So the lawyers actually noticed, the lawyers from Megan's side just sent the notice of deposition out on September 8th for a deposition that was supposed to happen on September 15th. So they really did not give a lot of time. All right. They give it like a week. Okay. First of all, now that's also very optimistic because it's assuming that somehow Tory Lanez would get it that very day. And he did not. He did not get the notice that very day because why? He's incarcerated. He's in prison. So we arrived today, the judge says, So y'all didn't oppose that notice of deposition. We arrive here today and I get an email saying now there's an objection, saying this should have been done under a separate rule, but I think that objection is way too late, Miss Morgan. This is what the judge is saying. The court has not traveled under a motion to compel. This is just simply continuing the original deposition. If we had gotten your objection earlier, Crystal, perhaps we could have straightened that out earlier. But this is a different situation than Caesar McDowell because Caesar McDowell didn't ever start a deposition before. So that's different. That's my ruling. Crystal, this is Tory's new lawyer. She said, hold on, Your Honor. I only received this myself on Saturday. I mean, had I received this earlier, I would have filed the appropriate motions that needed to be filed, but I did not receive it earlier. The court said, well, Miss Morgan, this is not a reflection on you at all. All I'm saying is there was no objection from anyone. She said, yeah. The court said, well, Mr. Peterson, this is Milagro's lawyer. So Milagro's lawyer and Tory's lawyer are on the same side. They're kind of both arguing different reasons why this is not proper. Milagro's lawyer said, Your Honor, the reason no one objected is because he didn't have an attorney. There was no one to object. No one was there to object. Crystal's saying she just found out about this a few days ago. The court said, Mr. Hayden, he had a lawyer. It was Mr. Hayden. Remember Michael Hayden? Tory Lanez kept calling him out by name. Michael Hayden, she's not letting me, blah, blah, blah. Michael Hayden, is she allowed to, da-da-da? Crystal said he left. Then Tory Lanez speaks up with the judge on the phone. He said, Mr. Hayden was never my attorney. He was never my attorney. I've never signed on with him. I never said he was my attorney, ever, ever. The court said, excuse me, Mr. Peterson, this is the judge to Tory Lanez. Do you have an attorney present that's representing you today as far as these proceedings? He said, at this moment, Crystal, yeah. Okay. So the judge said, here's what we're going to do. I appreciate you explaining that, but I'm going to have Miss Crystal Morgan speak on your behalf since she is your attorney. Then she can tell me what your position is, because if we have too many people speaking, it creates an issue. He said, can I ask you a question, Your Honor? The judge said, no, I'm afraid you cannot. You cannot ask me a question if you have an attorney. That they're the ones supposed to talk. She said, okay, I can ask the question. Tory said, all right, Crystal, what is the penalty? All right, here y'all go. What is the penalty for me not doing this deposition today? She says, and they're having this conversation right in front of the judge. She said, well, if you choose not to participate, they could sanction you the same as they sanctioned you before. He said, but what is the overall, like, if I choose not to do the deposition, is there a fine? Is there some jail time? What is it? Nobody is freaking talking to Mr. O'Sullivan from Quinn Emanuel, Megan's lawyer, but he pipes in to answer the question. He says there's a potential consequences and it's a range. He said, I would just like to know what the consequences are, if that's possible. The judge said, Miss Morgan is your attorney and I will allow you to ask her questions. He said, no, I was talking to her. And he's like, no, not to disrespect you at all, Your Honor. The court's like, I understand. So Crystal, Tory's lawyer, says, yes, no. Mr. Peterson asked me before this deposition on Saturday, if he didn't show up, what would the fine be? What would be, what would he be looking at as a sanction if, he chooses not to participate? And I do think it's a valid question. But his lawyer said, I'm still searching. I need to know where I find that it's a continuation from the court, from a prior order, because I'm currently looking for that and I don't see any of that. I see notice of 90 days expiring. But I do feel like this is like a little, like Tory Lanez just said, Mr. Hayden was not his attorney. He did a limited representation for that last deposition. And then we have emails, Your Honor, going back and forth this morning that were forwarded to me from Mr. Hayden and the prior lawyer. And these were all in Florida. They both stated they were not Mr. Peterson's attorneys. I have emails from these people saying I'm not his attorney. Crystal said, and so although again, I apologize for my late entry, but I can't be held to things that happened prior to my entry of the case, number one. And number two, I do feel that I need, more than just a reassurance that this is coming off of a continuation, that it's a different situation from Mr. McDowell, because I just don't see that from the order that I'm looking at. And no one's talking to him, but again, Megan's lawyer pipes in. Well, that is what the order reflects. There was a deposition, and Mr. Peterson was here for it. The court said, excuse me, Mr. O'Sullivan, excuse me. Okay. If you have the docket open, if you could look at docket number 1, docket entry 104, ordering the judge that Mr. Peterson shall pay plaintiff Megan Pete the reasonable attorney's fees incurred taking volume 1 of the deposition. So Tory Lanez also owes Megan the Stallion for attorney's fees for the first deposition. The continuation of Mr. Peterson's deposition shall proceed under the supervision of a magistrate judge, Lizette Reed. That's the one who's speaking right now. That is ordered on the first day of August 2025. So August 2025 was that order. So at that point, this is the judge talking, the district judge, in response to a motion for order to show cause why Tory Lanez should not be held in contempt, this is different than a motion to compel, it's contempt. The court ordered that Tory, the witness, has to pay reasonable attorney's fees incurred by taking the initial volume of the deposition, and he had to proceed under the supervision of a magistrate judge. So I can tell you, in response to your client's question, if he doesn't appear, so this is the judge, if Tory Lanez doesn't appear for a deposition, then the California court can essentially do the same. They can require him to appear for a deposition or allow the Southern District of Florida to do so. We are going to require him to pay all of the attorney's fees and costs that would be a part of that would flow from that, and then he would still end up having to give his deposition. But as for today, I just want to make sure, Ms. Morgan, that you understand that this is a continuation, and that's where this wording comes from. Are you able to see order number 104? Milagro's lawyer said, you didn't have an attorney. Tory's lawyer said, I'm looking for it right now, Your Honor. The court said, okay. She said, I have my team sending it to me. They're pulling it for me now as we speak. She said, I just, throughout the whole instance of this case, Your Honor, it seems to me that Mr. Peterson was very limited in his legal representation. And so regardless, I just don't understand why this court has jurisdiction versus Mr. McDowell, whose jurisdiction lies in the Central District of California. I do feel like I said that, it must be Rule 37A, not 37B, because they're treating Mr. Peterson like he's a party to this case, but he's not a party to this case. The judge said, okay, Crystal, but there was never a Rule 37 motion filed. So no one filed one. So I don't know why we're talking about Rule 37 motion right now. He said, I'm also surprised you're telling me, Miss Morgan, he didn't have counsel. Because when I look at the transcript from the deposition, Mr. Hayden appears to be representing him. Okay, but he doesn't. He doesn't. He said he was there only for Fifth Amendment stuff. And I hope that the judge went back and looked more closely at that first transcript, because he did say, I am here as appellate counsel for the witness. But he did clarify and say he was there as the main counsel for Milagro, who he referred to as the defendant. He did say, as he was clarifying over and over again, he's here to tell him to not incriminate himself. More and more indicating that this was a situation where he was just there for the criminal case. Indeed, and in fact, I'm hearing Tory Lanez in this deposition, reading Tory Lanez say he never, ever agreed for Michael to be his attorney, and in particular in this case. And now everybody's got rid of Unite the People. And I don't even know what's going on with that organization. Caesar McDowell's all pulled up in here. The judge said, well, I looked at that transcript. It looked like he was represented by a lawyer. So that's interesting to find out. So he tells his clerk, pull that up. Can you show me? He says to his clerk, the judge says to his clerk, Melind, can you show me or email me to where that is in the deposition? Volume 1 of Mr. Peterson's deposition. Maybe my law clerk can show me that, but I remember seeing that earlier that Mr. Hayden had appeared on Tory Lanez's behalf. Milagro's lawyer said, Your Honor, I don't believe Mr. Hayden was present on that August 1st, whatever that hearing was. And when the ruling was made, he had already exited from the UTP firm shortly after Caesar McDowell's deposition. The judge said, okay, all right, let's start here. Let me ask you, was he there for Mr. Peterson's deposition? Yeah, I believe he was, but he would have been present anyway because he was Milagro's lawyer. Okay. The judge is like, wait, well, did he show up for the deposition? Milagro's lawyer said, yeah, but he would have had to be there because he was the lawyer for the defendant. And that's what the deposition actually says, is that he's the lawyer for the defendant, but only the appellant counsel for the witness, which was Tory Lanez. Look again, Your Honor. Looked like he was represented is not the same as was actually represented. Plenty of nuance in the transcript. Agreed. Milagro's lawyer, who's now taken this guy's job, Miss Dixon is now Milagro's lawyer. I believe he was present for the deposition, but he would have had to be present anyway because he was representing the defendant, Milagro. And that's who he officially represented at the time. He was not representing Tory Lanez. It's just like, he was representing Milagro only. That's what he was there to do. Megan P's lawyer is like, with all due respect, Miss Dixon, we corresponded with the counsel for Miss Peterson about the order to show cause, and we reported his position to the court. Now look at this slimy snake. Look at this slimy snake, how he's representing this, because we have the email receipts. He's saying, well, we emailed with that lawyer, and he, reported his position to the court. Milagro's new lawyer said, that wasn't Tory's attorney. That's still irrelevant. Megan's lawyer said, I feel like it's hard for me to respond to you because you're saying you don't know the record, but then you're making assertions about what was or wasn't there. There was a lawyer there. There was a lawyer that corresponded with us about this motion. Milagro's new lawyer said, no, they did not. And you are going to find that that's not the case. And she's right. I'm going to show you all the receipt, but she's right and he's wrong. He said, there's a transcript. And the court said, well, let me see if I can pull up the email. Earlier today, my law clerk sent me emails in which Mr. Hayden at least was on the email. If he didn't actually respond, let's see. And now the court is leaning as if he's leaning toward agreeing with this person who's wrong. So I hope that he was able to, or she was able to read. Ms. Dixon, this is Milagro's lawyer, said that Michael Hayden guy has not been working for the firm for a while. He doesn't work for Unite the People. Okay, and then this guy, Dan Humphrey, pipes in. The judge said, I don't know how the court would have been aware of that. Well, the court could have been aware of that because he said on the record that he was there to represent the appellant, the witness in the appellate case. Like, it's very clear right there on the first page under appearances. They didn't file an appearance. Look, he said, did he file some sort of notice to the court? Because to represent a client in court, you have to file a notice of appearance. You have to be allowed to be on the record and on the list of appearances and all that. Did he file a notice to the court? Crystal Morgan said no. He needed to, but he never entered his appearance with Mr. Peterson formally. And I believe that he did what he needed to do with Miss Cooper to withdraw, but he didn't have to withdraw from representing Tory Lanez in this case. Want to know why? Because he never formally entered. This is our point, Your Honor. He didn't represent Tory Lanez. And in fact, and indeed, Tory Lanez didn't even have representation during that deposition. So nobody was there to object. Nobody was there to object because he did not have a lawyer. And just wait until we see this email, because it is so clear that this lawyer is misleading. And I'm talking about Megan's, in my opinion. He is being misleading. So here's Megan's lawyer. If I could just tell you, Judge, we have a hard cutoff here this afternoon here in prison, and a lot of people are here. So anyway, we think we're just going to be pressed for time if we argue all these motions now. So just give us our way and let us depose Tory Lanez today, and we'll sort all these little silly details out later after we have him on camera admitting to all kinds of things that, whatever we need him to say or whatever. He's like, I do just want to make the court aware that we have this time pressure that we're using now. We could be using for testimony. We could have these motions argued at a later time, Your Honor. We all flew here. He said, okay, thank you. Or she said, thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. So Milagro's lawyer said, Your Honor, Tory Lanez never had counsel on any of those emails where this particular scheduling, according to what I'm understanding, he didn't get the notice until this past Thursday that this deposition was even going to be taking place. Crystal Morgan said, exactly. Dan Humphrey said, Your Honor, if I just may be heard very quickly on page 6, the first page of the deposition, Mr. Hayden says he's counsel for defendant and appellate counsel for witness. That's on page 6. He said, yeah, I knew I had read that early this morning, but appellate counsel. I am appellate counsel. That means I represent him in the appeal. So Mr. Hayden is representing that he is the attorney and he's on the emails. Tory said, I never signed any agreement with him. And Milagro's lawyer said, well, he never signed an agreement with. This is what Mr. Daystar is telling me right now, is he never signed anything with him. And that at the time he actually worked for Milagro, and now I took over that position. The court said, well, he did represent that he was the attorney. As I said, he was ordered to go forward today by the district court. And that's the court's ruling. Tory said, just again, ask the same question I was asking before. What is the fine? What's the fine? What's the consequence? Crystal said, yeah, what is the fine if we don't go forward today? We're not prepared, Your Honor. We would like to formally object before we give any testimony. So we would like to find out what the sanction is today and go to the appropriate court and file our injunction. The judge said, okay, well, as I understand it, the sanction will be at the very least the attorney's fees and costs for all the attorneys who have appeared today. And Tory Lanez goes, easy. Got it. Next. The judge said, well, the attorney's fees and costs for everything dealing with volume 1, which was already ordered. He said, I see that there are requests for additional time incarceration as a result of this. Did I see that on what the judge had said? And Megan's lawyer's like, well, it's certainly, we don't have enough jail time out of this guy. We need this guy in jail longer. He said, it's certainly within the contempt power, Your Honor. I mean, there's an escalating set of consequences that would cause you to choose testifying at some point. Tory said, hey, listen, I got jail for 10 years right now. You can do whatever you'd like to do. The judge said, okay, so Tory's lawyer, if you could advise your client with respect to all different consequences that flow from failing to appear at a deposition. I'm sure you're aware of all of the consequences as the court is. But Crystal Morgan's like, no, actually, I'm not. She said, Your Honor, right now, without knowing whether or not you even have jurisdiction over my clients, I'm not sure if the sanctions would even be void or not. You know, at the end of the day, of course, they will be able to charge reasonable attorney's fees, and I'm sure they're going to ask for their costs to travel to this deposition today. But I'm not aware of any, further sanctions that would be appropriate. As Tory, this is, you said it yourself. This is just a continuation of the first one. So if this is just a continuation of the first one, I'm not really even sure that Tory has been held in contempt correctly or not. I still have to do a little bit of research, but as far as what an actual sanction can be held here, I'm really not sure if adding prison time is even possible or not. I don't believe so, because I don't believe his conduct has risen to that level, because on the one hand, we can't say that his conduct has risen to that level. And on additional jail time, if this still is just a mere continuance of the first deposition. So if this is a second deposition, perhaps that would be an appropriate sanction, but we really need to get to the bottom of that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. The judge said, Crystal, are you familiar with the first volume deposition? Have you read the deposition, the first deposition? She said, no, Your Honor, I have not. I just received this on Saturday. The judge said, oh, okay. She said, so no, I have not read. That is why I'm saying at the beginning, I am not familiar with this case. That means I'm not prepared. I wish I was, but it is a very voluminous case. I haven't been following it on social media or anything, so I can't really tell you even what the substance is at this point. And I apologize for that, but I've been focused on Mr. Peterson's appellate efforts. Just a month ago, we did oral arguments. The judge said, okay, all right. So what is the result of your conferral with your client? And what are you going to do today? She said, we are going to file the appropriate objections in the federal court before we give testimony. And we're going to find out if and when this court, if and when this court can compel Tory Lanez, or if we need to go, California to compel his testimony. The judge said, okay. Megan's lawyer said, Your Honor, so we would like to ask our questions, and the witness will do with his counsel what he chooses to do, but we're all here, and we did spend a lot of money, and we're set up to go. Milagro's lawyer just said, no. Mr. O'Sullivan, Megan's lawyer, said, I think you've ruled on the objection, right? The court said, okay, well, Megan's lawyer, you can proceed with your question. Yes, so we can make a record. Okay, all right. Well, are we on the record? The court reporter said we're on the record. Attorney Dixon Peterson. Okay. So, Mr. Peterson, I'm going to make a record. And so Tory Lanez said, excuse me, 1 second. Excuse me, Crystal. Excuse me, just again, out of curiosity. I just seem to be a little bit lost on what the answer was to me not participating in this deposition. So if there is no immediate thing you're going to do, Megan's lawyer said, consequence? I'm going to ask you questions. You'll either answer or not. Tory said, yeah, but before all that, with all due respect, sir, just before that, if there's no immediate, sort of consequence thing you're going to tell me to do right now, like no immediate consequence, I'm going to leave. I'm done here. I'm done here. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. What is it? I need to pay your flight or something? Just tell me, where do I send the check? I got to go. He said, I'm not your lawyer, but I can tell you that the point of the judge's role is to compel you to testify. He said, I understand that. But Ms. Dixon, this is Milagro's lawyer, said you can't compel. This judge can't compel him to testify. He doesn't have jurisdiction to do that. Megan's lawyer said, well, at least in my experience, there are ranges of consequences, and they could be anything up to incarceration for civil contempt. Tory said, okay, well, while I respect that, I'm just trying to understand what the exact consequence of this day, this session, this proceeding is going to be. Can I get that? His lawyer said, well, Tory, we're not sure. I don't even know if they have enough to go after civil contempt. I mean, if it's a continuation of the first subpoena, then I can argue they can't have their cake and eat it too. I don't feel like that's enough for them to go after civil contempt. Contempt to add more jail time if it's the same deposition. I mean, if this was a second deposition, that would be a different story. But I feel like right now we need California to come in and tell us where jurisdiction lies. Why? Because Tory Lanez is incarcerated in California, the Northern District. Tell her jurisdiction lies. He's saying, Crystal Morgan, Tory's lawyer, is like, but they're saying, this is a continuation. So if you walk, I can tell you definitely that they will have enough to be able to, charge attorney's fees, their fees and costs. He said, whatever they charge, that's fine with me. Then the court, seeing that that's not enough of a deterrent, which that's one of those ones where I see why Tory said it, but immediately it got him caught up because he's like, oh, I don't care about that. Then the judge, like whenever you're taking your licks from your mama or whatever, you're getting your little butt spanking or whatever, and you're a kid and you're like, that don't hurt. And then they figure out a way to make it hurt when you should have just sat there and took your licks. That's basically what Tory Lanez just did. And then they just immediately, the judge is like, oh, really? Well, then jail. In addition to attorney's fees, I want to make sure, Miss Morgan, that you tell, so this is the judge, in addition to attorney's fees, because I could see he don't care, whatever they charge, that's fine with me. That's what he just said. Okay, well, fine. In addition to attorney's fees, Crystal, tell your client he could also face more jail time and fines, more different fines. She said, well, that is what I said. It's costs, but that's a possibility. But I'm really not positive yet because I'm not even sure if they have enough to go after that, jail time. She's like disagreeing with the judge. Like, I think no. And she's probably right. She said, I'm sure they're going to ask for jail time now. So we'll have to, think of that and object this afternoon in California. Then Milagro's lawyer's like, I have a question. How long was the previous deposition? I wasn't there. Megan's lawyer's like, I understand, but that can't be weaponized in a case where you people say you haven't. And he said, you people. I want to ask the question. And then Tory goes, you people is crazy. And then Milagro's lawyer's like, I know, that's racist. And the court reporter's like, wait, sorry, Your Honor, I can't hear you. Can you repeat what you said? There's conversations going on over here. The judge is like, exactly. That's why I need everyone to listen for a few minutes. Either we're going to have today's deposition or we're not. Either your client is going to go forward, Miss Morgan, or he's not. And I would like for Mr. O'Sullivan, that's Megan's lawyer from Quinn Emanuel, to make a record by getting to ask his questions. And we can start, get responses. We'll have a record of what happened at this deposition. Crystal said, okay. So they'll ask you a question, Daystar, and I'll just respond with our objections so they can get it on record. Okay, good. Good morning. Okay, so they swear him in. All right, so the deposition's about to actually start. Okay, y'all ready? First question is easy. Have you ever given sworn testimony before? Have you ever testified in court ever? Tory's lawyer, Your Honor, we object. We don't feel that this court has subject matter jurisdiction at this time to compel Mr. Peterson's testimony. We did not receive a 10-day notice prior to this deposition. And as new counsel, I have not had time to prepare for this case. The judge said, okay. And as far as the ruling from the court, the deposition has been continued to this date by the judge. That continuation happened months ago. At the time, she ordered the continuation of deposition, and the sanctions can be attached for Mr. Peterson's failure to continue with the deposition. The sanctions are accorded by the rule, can be fines, jail time, attorney's fees, and costs incurred. I can also tell you that even if you do contact the California courts, we will end up right back here again because the court will authorize this deposition, the subpoena issued by this court. My only concern, what would make more sense right now, is if you're not prepared to go forward, Ms. Morgan, that you at least reschedule the date at this point in time because the deposition will occur one way or another. Do you have a date on which you intend to reset this deposition so at least we can note that you intend to move forward in good faith? Okay, I don't mind that from the judge. He's like, look, I see what you're saying. You're not prepared. I'm willing to give you that. That being said, your client is going to get deposed in this case. We know it. You know it. I know it. They know it. He's going to have to sit for a deposition. Okay. Sometime, some way, somehow. So, Miss Morgan, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what? It is kind of like bunk that you had to prepare. You had only 3 days to prepare for this and you just got dragged into this case and there's some confusion here. So it can look like you're actually trying to move forward in good faith and you're not just being difficult. Can we get another date in the calendar where deposition, you'd hold the date off? She said, well, if we needed to do that, certainly. She said, that wasn't offered to me. That would be actually very helpful. That would give me more time, more than, approximately 24 hours to read, such a voluminous case. The court said, I will point out for the record that the notice, the judge is saying, look, Crystal, I hear you and stuff, girl, but the notice for the deposition, it's dated September the 8th. So it was at least from the 8th to the 15th, which is 7 days notice. Okay, but that's not freaking 10 days, stupid. The judge must know that 10 and 7 are not the same. Milagro's lawyer said, Your Honor, he didn't have that notice 7 days ago. He didn't have any way to get that notice because he's incarcerated. The lawyer, Megan's lawyer, said, Your Honor, there's a record of the service. Milagro's lawyer said he didn't get it. He wasn't represented by counsel either. Then Tory's lawyer pipes up and she says, also, Tory reached out to me as soon as possible from the time he received notice with the limitations of him being incarcerated. The judge said, can I ask you who he received the notice from? She said, I actually don't know. He was served in prison, Your Honor. Crystal Morgan looks over to Tory Lanez and says, who gave you the notice? Tory Lanez said, somebody, okay, this is interesting. Who actually gave Tory Lanez the notice? He didn't get it on time at all by any stretch. It was at the biggest stretch. It was 7 days notice and he was required 10. He was entitled to 10. Who finally actually walked up in the prison and gave you the notice? He said, somebody who works there. He said, I wasn't served. Like they didn't give it to me like I was being served. By the way, it wasn't one of those either. It was like someone who should not have been giving me the paper, who gave me the paper. Tory said, but I don't want to talk bad about the jail. So I'll just leave it under the wraps. Oh, someone who should not have been giving me the paper gave me the paper, but I don't want to talk bad about the jail, so I'll just leave it under the wraps. Then Megan's lawyer's like, I think we filed the formal process. We filed the formal process for service on an inmate. Tory said, well, sadly, in CCR, things don't go the way you planned them all the time. Oh, the judge said, can you ask your client, Miss Morgan, when he received the notice and who he received it from? She said he doesn't know who he received it from. And I was told on Saturday that Mr. Peterson received it late Thursday. So he gets it on late on Thursday, finally is able to call her by Saturday. And Monday, they're here for the deposition. Tory said, I might even got it Friday. It was Thursday or Friday. And I immediately, as soon as I could, I got in touch with Crystal. Okay. He said, and I haven't even had the adequate time to prepare myself for this. This was 3 days ago. And the judge said, Miss Morgan, when would you reset this deposition for? What dates are you available? She said, I can be flexible, Your Honor, due to the importance of this. We can do the beginning of October. I'm wide open in the beginning of October. The court said, I need exact dates. She said, what about October 8th? And that would happen to be today. Today, October 8th, today. Or if not today, not October 8th, October 15th. Milagro's lawyer's like, I don't have my calendar, and neither does Megan's lawyer right now because we're not allowed to have our phones because they're in the jail, the prison. I appreciate what you're trying to do, Your Honor. I mean, we do have a strong objection, but here's Megan's lawyer. But we all traveled here today. Everyone else is prepared except these two. Okay, but the people representing the witness and the witness are the ones that really need to be prepared. Megan's lawyer said, even the subpoena or the notice of this deposition was a culmination of an order to show cause process that went on for months. And all those prior papers were served on Mr. Peterson. Milagro's lawyer said, no, they weren't. Stop lying. No, they were not. He said, there's a record of it, Rhonda. She said, no, there isn't. I mean, it was sent by email to us. The court said, there's no point in arguing that at this point. The record is going to speak for itself. And that's what will happen. You all have the emails that have Mr. Hayden on them. Tory's lawyer said, yeah. Those emails from this morning, he said, no. I have an email from Mr. Hayden saying he has no objection to the continuation. And this slimy, slippery snake is doing the same thing. Again, we have this email. We're going to read it. The judge is like highlighting one specific part of this email. He's saying we have an email from Mr. Hayden. That was that Michael Hayden that supposedly represented Tory before, but he doesn't anymore and anything. Saying he has no objection to the continuation of this case. But y'all, the whole thing that Tory's lawyer and Milagro's lawyer have been arguing this whole time with the judge is that was not Tory's freaking lawyer. He was only there to make sure Tory didn't incriminate himself for the criminal case. That was his lawyer for that case. He was not his civil lawyer. He was not there to object to a continuation. He was not there to object to jurisdiction. That is not what Tory Lanez had even agreed with him to do, if he had agreed with him to do anything. The court, however, is only focusing on, no objection. He's only focusing on this no objection part. But wait, we're going to read the email, and you're going to see how clear it is that Michael Hayden was not Tory's lawyer. Crystal said, actually, what he said in those emails this morning was that he was not representing Mr. Peterson. Then the court's like, right, that little afterthought. He has no objection to the continuation of the case because he's not Tory's lawyer. Stupid. How stupid is this judge? This judge might be just as stupid as the last judge on the last Tory Lanez situation we were dealing with. If you know, you know. The court said, but I have emails where he said he had no objection, no opposition to a deposition. Are you not aware of those emails, Ms. Morgan? She said, no, I'm not, actually. The judge said, would it make a difference if we pulled those emails up and sent them to you right now? Tory jumps in. I'm not aware of those emails either. And I, furthermore, never authorized him to do any of that on my behalf. The judge is like, okay, well, hold on. Tory's lawyer said, that's what I was going to say. The judge said, okay, fine. The court will note that you were aware of them. You were aware of those emails. And he's like, I was not aware of them. And I did not. No, he said, I'm not aware of them. The court said, the court will note you were aware of them. How are you going to note he was aware of them when he literally just said, I'm not aware of them? He literally just said, I'm not aware of those emails. The judge, same page. The court will note you were aware. What? What? The Crystal said, well, it wouldn't matter if I was aware of him or not, because I wasn't his attorney at that time, Your Honor. So, I mean, if he did continue on the behalf of somebody that wasn't his client, that wouldn't be appropriate. The judge said, no, he was his attorney at the time. Let me see if I can pull up those emails. Okay, let's pull him up, Your Honor, because he most certainly was not his attorney. And you are going to see how clear and unequivocal this guy was. And this is why you need a Crystal Morgan. Because these judges are either so stupid or so compromised or so paid off. It really has to only be one of those, in my opinion, just stupid or paid off, that they're saying things that are false. No, he was the attorney at the time. Let me see if I can pull those up. Let me see if I can pull those up, and immediately goes to his assistant. Let me see if I can pull those up. Milind, are you able to forward those emails to me? Tory said, does Milind have some sort of proof of being my attorney? The clerk said, yes. Give me a second. He said, where's the proof? The judge said, I want to make sure, Miss Morgan, that you have everything. Then Milagro's attorney said, in the deposition transcript, the court cuts her off. The judge said, didn't have counselor that Mr. Hayden wasn't appearing on his behalf. The court reporter said, I can't hear the judge. Your Honor, I'm sorry. They're all speaking over here and I can't hear you. This is the court reporter, Your Honor. They're speaking over here and I cannot hear you. The court said, yes, no. I was speaking to Miss Morgan, counsel for Mr. Peterson. I want to make sure that you have the full information so that you can advise your client and have the emails on which Mr. Hayden did not oppose this continuation. Again, this judge is trying to cover his or her ass by relying on the previous lawyer and the previous judge. But the previous lawyer was not doing a function of representation in this civil matter. He was only doing the criminal representation. He even said it on the record. Under the appearances, it says it clearly. He was there as appellant counsel, not as counsel, not as representation for this case. It would say and, just like it said for Milagro. But the judge is like, oh, well, he didn't oppose. And Miss Morgan and Miss Dixon are both saying, so the fuck what? That wasn't his lawyer. He wasn't supposed to oppose. It wasn't his job to oppose. It wasn't his lawyer. And the judge is like, oh, no, it was. And Tory's like, I literally never entered into any agreement with him. He never put a notice of appearance. He wasn't, when he withdrew, he didn't withdraw because he had never actually filed a notice of appearance because he wasn't my lawyer. It's very clear. The judge said, but at the deposition, it was stated he represented Tory. So I'm going to let my law clerk pull those up so I can forward them to you. Do you have an email? Yes, Your Honor. The law clerk emailed this morning. And I did receive the emails this morning. Mike Hayden was very clear that he was doing a limited appearance. So yeah, he was doing a limited appearance at the time. But Ms. Dixon is correct. Michael Hayden has not worked for Unite the People in approximately 6 weeks now. And as far as I'm aware, Unite the People was attempting to get a new attorney and they were not able to secure new counsel. Or I'm not sure if they were. So I'm not privy as to whether they have anyone to represent any client at this point in time. The judge said, okay, well, I'm not sure about this point in time. What I can say is that at the point in time when this was an issue, he stated he had no objection. And Milagro's lawyer said, and when was that, Your Honor? Hold on. Let me see if I can pull up the email. Is this the one you just sent me? Yes, the clerk said it was the same one that I had sent Miss Morgan earlier this morning. Okay, they got their shining email, okay? Are y'all excited to finally see what the email says? Okay, good. We're going to read it soon. Miss Morgan said, what time was that? Sorry, I have so many emails. It's come to my attention that Daystar has no lawyer to represent him. Let me first apologize for the late objection. Okay. You sent me Miss Morgan's email. Oh, see, let's attach. Let's see. Okay, so that exhibit that's attached, Michael Passier, I believe he was the local Florida attorney. Okay, here's the email. Here's the quote, everybody. Quote, Quote, this is from that last lawyer, the one the judge was just sitting there talking about. He did have a lawyer. Pull it up. I saw him. Pull it up. He had a lawyer. He didn't object. Okay, he was so certain. Let's see what that lawyer said in the email. Quote, we have nothing to do with Mr. Daystar Peterson. Oh, that's pretty unequivocal. We don't really even have to go farther than that. Huh? We have nothing to do with Mr. Daystar Peterson, and he is not our client. And he is certainly not my client. Okay. Does this sound like he had a lawyer to you? One in the chat for yes, two in the chat for no, because for me it's a 2. It sounds like no, he did not have a lawyer. Quote, we have nothing to do with Mr. Daystar Peterson, and he is not our client, and he is, quote, certainly not my client. While Mr. Hayden represents him in a state court criminal appeal, in a habeas case in California, and he was there to protect his constitutional rights against self-incrimination, neither I nor Mr. Hayden represent him in any civil matter. Neither I nor Mr. Hayden represent him in any criminal matter or in any other capacity. We have no control over him. The email continues on. So that's the email I'm referring to, Your Honor. Check freaking mate. He said, okay. And that's when he says he will not oppose any action taken against him individually. Yeah. What a freaking idiot, y'all. This judge needs a brain scan. This email said, we have nothing to do with Mr. Tory Lanez. He's not our client. He is certainly not my client. Mr. Hayden represented him in a state court criminal appeal in a habeas case in California. He did go to the deposition to make sure that Corey didn't incriminate himself criminally, but we do not represent him in any civil matter. We have no control over him. So imagine you're reading that email. That's the email you see. And somewhere in there, it's like, so given that, we don't have any objection to y'all doing whatever y'all want to do to Tory Lanez and with Tory Lanez. That's not our client for this case. So whatever y'all need to do it. The judge completely ignored that whole entire first part. We do not represent him. We most certainly do not represent him. We represent him on this one thing. We were in there only for self-incrimination, but that's not our freaking client. And the judge picks out that one tiny sentence where it says, we won't object to y'all throwing the full force of the book. The full book, the full force of the law at him. We're not going to object because that's not our client. Here's the judge with his thumb up his ass. Probably in the group chat. Probably got a monitor in his ear telling him what the hell to say. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. I said give the man a brain scan or the woman a brain scan. The man said, we are not representing this man. And the judge is like, he had a lawyer. Though. I think he had one. Like, yeah, pull the email. And the freaking email says no. This is the shining email. They've been bickering over for the past pages upon pages. And you know what it actually says? We have nothing to do with him. He's not our client. We can't control him. The judge is like, oh, yeah. But didn't it also say they won't oppose any action? She said, that's not Tory Lanez saying that. He doesn't object to the continuation. That's them saying that. You can do whatever you wish to do to him. The judge says, okay, so are you officially saying you represent him? You would be then the first attorney that is officially representing him. She said, yes, Your Honor, that is true. Yes, I am. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure you're on the record. And are you available for the deposition on October 8th and October 15th? She said, yep. Okay, and what other dates I'm available? Let's see. Tory Lanez is like, Crystal, before you be setting dates and stuff, I don't think you should set a date until y'all file that injunction. I see why Tory Lanez is saying that. However, the judge is pushing Crystal to show good faith by scheduling a date. So it could be canceled or not, but I do see why Crystal needed to do this because otherwise she could get sanctioned. Megan's lawyer's like, we want to proceed today with our questions. Crystal said, that's why I'm saying October. So we'll have time for the injunction. The injunction will be very fast, Tory. He's like, the court jumps in and says to Crystal Morgan, the dates that you're available, she said, I'm available October 8th, 9th, 10th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. I'm very lucky. I work for myself. Oh, he said, so any of those days you would be available? She said, yes, Your Honor. He said, okay. Milagro's lawyer, Your Honor, I don't have my calendar though, and I'm a pretty busy criminal defense lawyer, so I think I have something on October 8th, but I don't know about all those other dates. October 8th, I do have a motion. Oh, the court said, oh, well, boo-hoo. So they doing something today. Or maybe not. She said, for this, I have a motion on the other matter, so I can't have anybody sit in on that. On October 8th, definitely I'm not available. I already know I have 2 motions to argue. Crystal said, I can defer to Ms. Dixon's schedule as well. I'm an appellate attorney, so I don't have court as much as she does. The court said, okay, I think we've done all we can today. I'll expect to get motions, I'm sure, from both sides on this matter, and we'll rule on them as quickly as possible so we can move forward to have this deposition done as early as possible. Okay, this is for Tory. Megan's lawyer says, okay, I'll just note my objection, Your Honor, on behalf of the client. The prison accommodated us. Everybody is here, and we have incurred enormous expenses and obviously will be making a motion. Mr. Peterson is subject to the jurisdiction of the federal court. He's not going to get an injunction against this deposition. It's going to happen. I would propose we just do it since we're all here. He said, I'll pay for your flight. Tory said, I'll pay for your flight. Don't worry. The judge said, all right, it'll happen again. Okay, yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He said, I'm good to go? Okay, yeah. Okay, he's good to go. Okay, so that was it. So that was it for that deposition. How insane was that? So now we're just waiting for the judge to decide, because now what's going on is Crystal has motioned for a protective order. So let me pull that up. And you'll see what Crystal filed since then. Because remember, the first thing we read was Megan the Stallion, trying to get Tory Lanez to have to be held in contempt and all of that stuff. So then we read the deposition that it was based on. We read that first deposition as well. And this is what Crystal filed. Now, when did she file this? She filed this separately, kind of like how Perez Hilton did in the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively situation, whenever Blake Lively is trying to get him to turn over stuff in this case. He filed in his home district of Las Vegas. That's kind of like what's going on here. So they're filing in the Central District of California. Daystar Peterson, through his counsel, respectfully moved for a protective order under Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 26C. He's an incarcerated non-party facing undue burden, prejudice to ongoing criminal appeal, and constitutional risks if compelled to provide further deposition testimony. Relief is warranted to ensure compliance with the federal rules and to protect non-parties and to safeguard Mr. Peterson's rights. Then she gets into the background. Megan the Stallion seeks to compel discovery from Mr. Peterson, alleging he compensated a co-defendant. It's just a defendant. I don't think there's co-defendants. He's not a defendant, which is a big issue here. He's not. He's a non-party. He was deposed as a non-party on April 9th earlier this year, and again appeared on September 15th, a couple weeks ago, under objection. Unlike other non-parties, Tory Lanez remains incarcerated in California while appealing his conviction. His direct appeal remains pending as of September 2025. It still remains pending as of October 8th, too. Following his denials of habeas corpus in August 2025. At the September 15th hearing, Tory Lanez objected to further compelled deposition, underscoring the need for intervention by this court, the District of Compliance. In April 2025, he was deposed as a non-party. At this time, he had a limited appearance attorney, Michael Hayden from Unite the People, who was also the attorney for Milagro Cooper. As this case is in the Southern District of Florida, Michael Hayden was appearing pro hoc vice through local counsel, as shown in the email attached as Exhibit 1. In Pete versus Cooper, other non-parties have been deposed and treated differently. Specifically, Mr. Caesar McDowell and Livingston Allen, which is DJ Academics. DJ Academics is a resident of New Jersey. And on September 16th, Meg and Pete filed a motion to compel in New Jersey. Despite both Mr. Peterson and Mr. McDowell being present in the state of California, no similar motions were filed. The court found that Meg and Pete had to comply with the federal rules. On September 15th, 2025, Mr. Peterson appeared with counsel of record, that's Crystal Morgan, that's the one we just read, and continued his deposition with the approval of the magistrate in order to determine whether Megan must compel his testimony through the Central District of California. Tory Lanez's attorney urged that Tory and herself did not have the mandatory 10-day notice in order to prepare. We were not properly compelled to give said deposition. But the magistrate determined that Tory was being treated differently from Mr. McDowell due to Tory's deposition being just, quote, continued through the order to show cause. Yet time to file this motion was given. Tory praised that this court find that he should be treated as a non-party, same as other non-parties. Non-parties have heightened legal protection, and prisoners and prisoner depositions require court leave. If you compel him to speak, you will be infringing upon his Fifth Amendment rights and prejudicing his criminal appeal. And this is where the deadline for the appeal was mentioned, and which is why I brought it up earlier. Mr. Peterson's risk of prejudice is great. So that's Tory Lanez, has a great risk of being prejudiced, as the opinion for his direct appeal will be delivered by November 16th, 2025 at the latest. There is minimal delay, so a slight burden on the civil court is merely he's merely a non-party. Discovery has been ongoing and extended. The public interests favor this. So what is he actually asking for? A protective order, quashing any further deposition, absent a Rule 45 compliance in this district, or in the alternative to limit any deposition to just written testimony, shift the costs to Miss Pete, so shift those costs back onto her, impose Rule 30 safeguards, which are tailored to Mr. Peterson's incarceration, so give him the incarcerated person safeguards, and stay any deposition pending the resolution of his direct appeal. But the resolution of his direct appeal isn't set to be done until November 16th, and the trial for this is November 17th, the very next day. A judge trying to coerce an unfamiliar attorney to proceed is crazy work. This transcript is great promotion for Crystal Dixon. Crystal is not Dixon. It's Rhonda Dixon and Crystal Morgan. But they are working together beautifully. So she says, also for the foregoing reasons, Tory respectfully requests the government grant his motion for a protective order barring improper non-party deposition, or alternatively limiting discovery consistent with the federal rules, Ninth Circuit precedent, and constitutional protections. Okay, let me pull up the email itself. I want y'all to see it. Exhibits A, I think. Hold on. I'm just pulling the document up. My thing crashed. Okay. There's like a lot of like email addresses and stuff, so I'm just trying to find the right spot. Hold on. Sorry, I'm just... Okay, maybe it's not one of those. Let me look for the next one. Just give me a couple seconds. I mean, we already read the relevant part because it's that part we were talking about with the that part we were talking about where I read from the quote. Opposition to Tory's motion for protective order. Let me try that one. Oh, I think I know where it is. Hold on. I think I know how to find it. Okay, Megan's motion to order to show cause. I think it's footnote 1. Okay, so this is where I found the reference. Footnote 1, in an email requesting a meet and confer regarding the egregious conduct. Pansier said that Hayden was counsel of record for Ms. Cooper, represents Tory Lanez in a state criminal appeal. He also stated Tory. Okay, so they just say in an email. They don't even attach the email. This is so like dishonest, in my opinion. See, Pansier emailed to Humphrey April 11th, attached as Exhibit A. Okay, let's go to Exhibit A. Okay. So here's the email filed in a court. Okay, look at this. Look at this. And the judge, remember, y'all, I just want you to remember, the judge was like, he does have a lawyer. He does have a lawyer. He was represented. Yeah, clerk, give me that, clerk, pull it up. It's like, dude, lay off whatever it is because, dude, no. Look at this email. Dan, let me make this crystal clear. Oh. Contrary to your assertion in your email, we have nothing to do with Mr. Daystar Peterson, and he is not our client. He is certainly not my client. While Mr. Hayden represents him in a state court criminal appeal and a habeas case in California, and was there to protect his constitutional rights against self-incrimination, neither I nor Mr. Hayden represent him in any civil matter or in any other capacity. We have no control over him or his conduct, and frankly, his conduct wasted our time as well. Thus, I do not know why you need to meet and confer with us, as this is between you guys. We have not been retained to represent him in this matter, and thus, you guys are free to seek court intervention against him. Okay, that whole email, right? The whole email is very clear. Very clear. Okay, let me make this crystal clear. Contrary to your assertion, we have nothing to do with Tory Lanez. He is not our client. He is most certainly not my client. While Mr. Hayden represents him in a state court criminal appeal and a habeas case in California, he was there at the civil deposition to what? Protect his constitutional rights against self-incrimination. Neither I nor Mr. Hayden represent him. Neither I nor Mr. Hayden represent him in any civil matter or in any other capacity. We have no control over him or his conduct, and frankly, his conduct wasted our time as well. Thus, I do not know why you're trying to get me to meet and confer about something That is between y'all and Tory Lanez. Figure it out over there. We, quote, we have not been retained to represent him in this matter, and thus you guys are free to seek court intervention against him. So this is the most clear email possible. And then look, there's one sentence at the very end, the very last sentence. And for some reason, unbeknownst to me, that's the one sentence Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers are clamping and clasping onto, as well as the judge, magistrate. This sentence says, quote, after saying all that, we don't represent him. Let me make it crystal clear. We have nothing to do with him. That's a quote. Nothing to do with. The very last sentence, any action you wish to take against him individually, we will not oppose. So the judge sat up there with a straight freaking face going, well, he said he wasn't going to oppose. Well, he said he wasn't going to oppose. He said he wasn't going to oppose. Yeah, dumb fuck. Look what else he said, stupid ass. We don't represent him. We have nothing to do with him. He wasted our time. We were only there to protect his constitutional right against self-incrimination. We are not his lawyers. We have not been retained to represent him in this matter. The judge completely ignored all of that just to focus on the last sentence. Clerk, find me that last sentence. Find me that last. Put this person in the old folks' home. Scary. This was what he was responding to. Mr. Daystar Peterson's conduct at his deposition was not only inappropriate and harassing, it was also a violation of the court's order granting us the ability to take his deposition, and we intend to address your client's behavior with the court. Please advise immediately of your availability to meet and confer. That's when he said meet and confer for what? That's not my client. Go figure it out with yourself in the court. That's not my business. So they were, including the magistrate judge, were all just looking forward to nobody objecting. So when they got there that day, the judge was like, well, he said he wasn't going to object. Yeah, well, did Tory Lanez say he wasn't going to hire a lawyer? Because this is crazy. And the fact he didn't find out about it till the Thursday, the fact his lawyer didn't find out about it till a Saturday, and then that judge was really going to sit up in there and be like, I thought nobody was going to object. That is some crazy work. Thank you, Kel on Earth, for the 149. Thank you, Life of Samad, for the £4.99. This is scary. This is clearly a fixated obsession. She got him under the jail like she wanted. Like, move the F on. This is taunting. I know, leave him alone. Thank you, Morgan, becoming a member. Thank you, Life of Samad, for the £4.99. I said it. I'm paranoid right now. I have been. One of the reasons, Samad, that I feel so strongly about this case is because I have been victimized by lawfare. I have been lied about. People have said with their full chest they've recruited other people, possibly paid other people to lie about me. Under penalty of perjury, people have on YouTube videos lied about me. I know firsthand, not a lot of people have racked up over $1 million in legal bills. Not a lot of people can count themselves among the ranks who have had to defend their name like I have. Okay, so Tory Lanez, absolutely. He's way above me in the ranks. But so I didn't even really want to use the word paranoid because it has a negative connotation, but I would be paranoid. And in fact, and indeed I am. I know new friends since 2022. I mean, no new friends ever. I'm paranoid as can be. And I didn't need to get put in jail for it. Okay. So totally understandable to be paranoid. And I believe if you rewind the tapes, when I said that word, I said, and rightfully and understandably, totally 100% not going to get any disagreements out of me. A lot of times I'll be saying words that other people have made into like negative words. And to me, it's not a negative word. Like maybe cautious, I should say, hyper cautious. I would be paranoid. I am paranoid. Would be. I am. I wasn't convicted. I was only accused. I was accused in a civil court, not even a criminal, a civil court. And that was enough to make me paranoid. So you're not going to get me trying to say he shouldn't be, because he definitely should be. It's clear to me if I'm him, I'm going to definitely be paranoid. You have to be cautious, but like overtly, like you have to be thinking like 11 and a half, 15 and a half steps ahead. Forget about 4, forget about 8. You got to be thinking across the whole chessboard once you're in a situation like he has been. Totally. Shout out to Bianca becoming a YouTube member. Shout out to Dee Dee becoming a member, being a member for a month. BJ, can you read lyrics from Tori's Peterson album soon? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thanks so much to Alexis for the $10 super sticker. Yeah, then they came back and apologized. It was crazy. They tried. They sure did. We talk, we walk. Yep. Yeah. I mean, exactly. So for me, when I say paranoid, I don't mean like, oh, he's paranoid over the top paranoid. Actually, in fact, and indeed, I went and found another document, Aiden Ross's, to actually back up where I think probably Tory Lanez was coming from. Cause it's like, well, we're all sitting here talking about meeting and discussing and all of this, but like, what give me one of them long ass lawyer definitions real quick. What you going to be using against me? And I can absolutely understand why he is, again, I don't know like what better word there is, but like sensitive, I would say, to, and understandably sensitive, to, or aware, hyper vigilant, maybe, of people putting words in his mouth. Cause somebody took him saying, I wish I didn't do that, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't have got that drunk, as if he admitted to shooting somebody. So his words have been taken out of context already to convict him criminally. He never said he shot her, but his words of an apology were being manipulated and taken out of context as to imply that that's what he said. And it just simply wasn't what he said. So I'm fully on board. I read the transcripts. I saw it. So I'm, no problems coming for me. I would be paranoid. I am paranoid, and nobody ever even convicted me of nothing. Okay. So, and you know what else too? Monica, I totally accept apologies. I accept their apologies, but shame on me if you fool me twice. You get exactly one time to F me over. You get exactly one time to go bump your gums about me, period. Goodbye. Actually, a couple of them I gave 2 chances. I gave them exactly 2 chances and they still kept going to do it. It was just like, okay, bye. Okay, bye. Yeah, no, Kirsty, good point. Thank you so much for saying this, because I mean, people out here acting, trying to gaslight me. Not nobody in here, nobody in here. But yeah. So I said, you know what? Now that you mentioned paranoid, lately I've made a couple comments about you under other videos saying I wish you would collaborate with people. And it's like I get bot haters immediately. There are armies of robots online that get paid to talk shit about me. And you'll notice they all say the same 3 things. One of them is I'm racist. Okay. Anytime you see somebody call me racist, like there's a very high chance it's a bot, because that's something that gives you a lot of social currency. And I do bridge the gap between a lot of cultures and races that the powers that be have spent a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of propaganda dividing us. And here's little me coming along like everybody's my freaking cousin. I really don't care how much melanin you got. I don't care where you were born, because we're all the people, capital P, against the open air prison guards. Okay, that's how I see it. And here I am, basically bridging all of these divides that have been very, very intentionally, expensively placed upon us. But oh well, too bad, so sad. You shouldn't let me grow up where I grew up with, how I grew up with, the family I grew up with, because like I just don't see it that way. Like, in fact, and indeed, I take it real personally when people try to act like I can't talk about something because somebody got more melanin or less melanin or whatever than me. I think that's very stupid. Goodbye, you're blocked. But it's very easy to like break people. I mean, I saw it happening actually on Gangland Memes, chat before. There was somebody in there, and that person did not know I was in there because I had not started to chat in there yet. I was just watching because I didn't, want Neem at the time. This was like my first video watching of his. I didn't want him to feel nervous or feel like I was like surveilling or whatever. No, I don't hate men at all. I actually love men. Shout out to the real men out here. I do not hate men. No, I do not. I actually love men. I do not like men that act stupid, but I do not like any gender people that act stupid. So anyway, I don't hate men either. I love men. I would not be able to live my life comfortably and happily. I would not be who I am today without men. So this is not a man hater account or chat. So try again. See, maybe that's one of the fake things they make up. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, seriously, I mean, it's very stupid. Yeah, the hate bots will follow people to their work. But I saw it. I was in Neem's chat and I wasn't in it, right? I was watching it along. And this person or bot kept saying over and over. And it was Neem was like reacting to one of my videos and he was like, he liked me. And he was like, actually, he's like, actually, I watch BJ's videos. I'm familiar with her. I've seen her videos before. And he was like, seemed to have a good positive impression of me, right? And this one bot account kept saying, but she's racist. Don't you know she's a racist? And he was like, if she is, point me to where she is. Obviously, he was like, I'm not going to be, supporting somebody that I think, is racist. He's like, but I haven't seen anything like that. But yeah, I haven't seen anything like that. This person or this bot kept going every couple minutes, they would just plant another seed. I watched it happen in real time and I have screen recordings of it. I watched it happen in real time. Then it got to a point where in the video he was reacting to, I had not exactly remembered the name of this person that Nova, the teenage runaway, had said that she had ran away to the first time. She had this first boyfriend. Nova had this first boyfriend. And I believe this person was like for sure, this person was like in their late 20s and Nova was 13 or maybe 12 or 13. So I'll leave up to your imagination the dynamic of their relationship. But this was the first person she ever had relations with. And, statutorily, that would be a criminal relation. But she had, and when I'm recording videos, a lot of times I don't have the script, like a script right in front of me of word for word, because it just kind of seems a little bit too fake or something. So I kind of have bullet points and I'm kind of just going off the cuff, right? In the video that Neem was reacting to, and again, Neem's my cousin. I like Neem. No, this is no hate to Neem. He didn't do anything wrong. Actually, he ended up like putting this person right in their place or whatever. So like, I'm not even saying anything about Neem. I'm just talking about like how the setup works. So it was like, oh, the bots, the assholes see that there's somebody else online who's like hyping me up or in any way supporting me or putting me on or whatever, right? And they immediately go into the chat. Oh, she's racist. Oh, da 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 da. And he's like, nah, I don't think so. And this account is like, you'll see, just keep watching. You'll see. So as it's sinister, right? As to, yeah, no, I don't think I started the Free Britney movement. I've said actually many times, I didn't start the Free Britney movement. I've said many, many times I joined the Free Britney movement. But again, they just lie. And that's why I am sympathetic to people that say a whole conspiracy of people is lying about me, because I've literally experienced it. I watched it happen. This person's like, you'll see. So I get to the point in the video and Neem is reacting to it, right? I get to the point in the video where I'm like, what was that guy's name? I think his name was Antoine. And it was Antoine. When my editor was editing the video, he did go back and he found the clip and Nova had said Antoine. That was in fact and indeed, in reality, literally, actually, factually his name. And I was like, I think his name's Antoine. Now, had my editor gone through when he was editing and saw I got the name wrong, he would have taken it out. Because he wouldn't have put somebody's name in there if it wasn't, right? He found the clip. The clip said Antoine. Well, the clip that said Antoine didn't show up for another, few minutes in the video. But in the video, I'm like, yeah, she had this first boyfriend. I think his name was Antoine. Ended up factually, yes, his name was Antoine. Yes, it was. In the moment of me making the video, I didn't want to just throw somebody's random name out there. So I put the verbal marker, I think his name is Antoine. Come to find out, yes, that was his name. but I didn't stop what I was doing in the middle of recording and go check. But come to find out, yes, I was right. So in the time in the video from when I say I think his name is Antoine, and the time in the video where Antoine is his name and it is shown by Nova saying it, is a few minutes go by, right? So Neem's doing a reaction. So that part comes up in the video where I'm like, I think his name is Antoine. And Neem paused the video and directly addressed that bot commenter by name, says its name, and goes, oh, I think I'm starting to see what you're saying now. The racism, that's a microaggression. She just threw out a random black guy's name and accused a random black guy. I could see him getting, again, understandably upset because a seed of hatred and false claims and defamation had been laid purposefully, intentionally. And again, I have the screenshots, I have the screen recordings, because I was astonished to watch it happen. From the first moment that Neem started reacting to the video, he was so excited about me and so excited to react. He was agreeing, most importantly, with my main point, which is this child is in danger. This child is being failed by the adults in her community. And I do not mean a race. I mean her literal community that she has the access to and support. They're creeps. They don't protect her. Her parents suck, right? Neem was agreeing with these important points. The important points he was agreeing with. But in this chat, this bot or this paid plant or this agent of chaos or this just straight up hate or whatever it is had literally been able to infect Neem's mind to trick Neem, to trick him into thinking that I was saying something racist when in fact and indeed what I was saying was just a true statement. Like, I think his name was Antoine, and guess what? His name was Antoine. Well, thankfully, eventually that clip does get played, and Neem even says it like some joke, like, y'all all owe BJ an apology. Y'all owe her an apology. And his name was Antoine. Shout out to Drea the Virgo. I don't know if she's in here right now. I don't know if she's in here right now, but shout out to her because she was saying it too. All y'all talking about BJ was saying his name is Antoine. Guess what? His name was Antoine. Aren't y'all happy that I said the name of the guy that Nova accused of turning her out? I'm not allowed to say the guy's name because it's the guy's name or what? But again, y'all, it's not bad faith on the part of Neem. And again, it was all cleared up. Obviously, like, Neem's my cousin. Like, I didn't get mad at him. And even if Neem would have just been like, you know what, this girl's a racist, I don't even want to mess with her no more, like publicly or whatever, I would even understand that because I saw the manipulation happening in real time. And I saw that this person, this robot, this account, this page shell was relentless. Relentless. You'll see. Keep watching. You'll see. As if to plant the sinister idea in this person's mind that I'm racist. Because why? Because anybody black, they don't want us teaming up together. Ha! Can you imagine how much propaganda would just be ruined instantaneously if just all of a sudden the crabs in the barrel, which include me, we the people, just all of a sudden we're like, okay, can this be done now? This whole like everything's racist all the time. Can we like actually focus on the fact that like little girls are being abused and nobody's doing anything about it? Yeah, we can. Oh my God. Can you imagine the entire glitch in the matrix that would produce? Yeah, I can because I'm seeing it. If only they had the same type of energy about people actually doing wrong. And it does make me wonder. It does make me wonder, who are these people? Who are these people? There's a certain leniency I will give to people for being like, I don't like listening to her. You know what I mean? Like, people don't like listening to me. People find me to be annoying. People find me to be too loud or something like that. Like, these things are like, okay, fine. But like, she's racist. I can't give you any examples. Just watch long enough and you'll see. I can't give you any examples. Just watch long enough and you'll see. So then whenever I accurately guess somebody's name or accurately remember, rather not guess, I remembered accurately somebody's name, it's racist. Antoine is a French name, first of all. Antoine could be the name for a lot of people, first of all. Okay. But second of all, even if there's black Antoines, it's not racist to just, so what? So what? Sometimes I remember Paul instead of Ruben or whatever. You know, like there's just, so what? That's not racist either, by the way. However, I was actually factually, literally right. His name was Antoine. But this person had poison. And then this person, in my opinion, harasses me because I blocked this person. But they're not blocked from Neem's chat. So whenever, you know, I'm logged into like just the like household YouTube or whatever, I could still see the person's harassing messages. And it's like, tell BJ to unblock me, LOL. Ask BJ what her opinions. I want to know. Like, you're freaking blocked, you stalker. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. After starting defamatory and false, hurtful rumors against me in my profession, in my field, with a fellow content creator, and false. Couldn't give any specific examples. Just said, just wait and you'll see. So that Neem's mind was poisoned and primed to think that I am something that I am not. And this goes on all day, every day. So yeah, I am sensitive. I am sensitive to and appreciative of the plight of people like Tory Lanez because I've seen the online setup myself. I've seen the online setup myself. They're going to have to try a little bit freaking harder because you're never going to catch me at a Rock Nation brunch, and you're never going to catch me in the back of a car leaving Kylie Jenner's house. Now, does that mean he deserves what happened to him? Absolutely not. Who could have ever guessed that that was going to happen? I would have never been able to guess it. But one thing about me is I can learn from somebody else's mistake. I can learn from somebody else's not even mistake. I can learn from somebody else's what setup they fell into. I'm not going there. I don't want to go to LA. Anywhere over there. Some of them are haters. Some of them are literally paid. Some of them, it's their job. They clock in every day to do it. I'm the leader of several global socio-political human rights movements. I'm very familiar with COINTELPRO tactics. Shout out to BP Learned Hands. Yeah, no, I'm dealing with more hate than most people could even imagine. And also, most of it bounces right off of me because I know who I am. I know why I am here. I'm packed up, prayed up, and ready to go up. And there's nothing, not one single thing that anybody can do to stop me. Nothing. I'm not scared of nothing, and I'm not scared of nobody. When it's my time, it's my time. And I'm not going to be checking out not 1 second sooner. And if some more people could summon up that kind of courage, we would live in a better world. Anyway, that's all I really had for this one. Who's online? Who can I send y'all to? Anything exciting going on over here? Oh my God. Did y'all see the Hassan, what was his name? Is it Abi Piker with the dog shot collar thing? Okay, I don't see anybody's live right now. So, all right, y'all. I'll see y'all like later or whatever. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Neither are opinions. I don't know any of these people. Innocent until proven guilty. Love you, mean. Okay, bye.